Oh, well, hello, hello. Oh, you know what would be helpful? Is if I actually got myself set up properly. Give me 1 second. Not the best way to start a stream. Forgetting to open my Chromebook. Austin, how are you doing, my man? What a week, eh? What a week. Let me just get something set up here. This is the best start to a stream I've ever done in my life. Let me know if the audio is no good. I got a window open, like literally right here. And it's a beautiful windy day, which I really need. Just feeling the air. It was so good. Ugh. It was oddly humid and hot day yesterday, so it was all. I think we're good to go here. Yeah. Hey, hello, Peanut Butter Beatrice. Good to see you. Good to see you. I hope you guys had a really beautiful week. What a week. What a week. Like, Israel starts lobbing rockets at Iran. Iran lobs rockets back at Israel. The Iron Dome has been penetrated. Israel is looking weak. I've seen arguments between ministers in Israel on the street about how they miscalculated and they have gotten themselves into a bind. Donald Trump, of course, the entire time, giving us the will I, won't I. Because from Donald Trump's perspective, this is all just for ratings, right? That's the only reason he does anything is for ratings. Because he's like a weird, creepy, like, television show Nazi, basically. Oh, the saddest thing, Long Defiant, good to see you, my man. The saddest thing is that Netanyahu's son had to delay his wedding for the second time. I know. Oh, poor Netanyahu's son. Poor Netanyahu's son has to delay his wedding for the second time. Oh no. Oh no. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's I'm gonna try to say this without it setting myself up to get banned because I know that leftist spaces are the most vulnerable spaces now. They're the most likely to get banned now because it's Nazism, guys. Like the Nazis are taking over. That's what's happening. I'm Today I'm going to go through primarily Canadian sources talking about what's going on in Canada. I feel like all of us have just hyper focused our eyes on America for good reason. For good reason. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do a big shout out to Cody Johnston's show again, Some More News. He just did a really, really great episode about ICE and where ICE came from, who is ICE, who are these guys, why did ICE get set up as an organization. Really good, informative, actual reporting happening over in Some More News. And, like, it is becoming the case that like the people who are supposed to be the quote unquote comedians are actually like where your news sources are now, and the news sources are like a parody of news now. Like satire is dead, everything's inverted, right? Like the people who are supposed to be lampooning the news are now the news, and the people who are supposed to be the news are now a satire of the news. It's just like a total inversion. The Goat, good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Peanut Butter Beatrice says, "I'm sure that scorched kumquat is enjoying all the attention." Yeah, that's all it ever was for him. That's all this is that he gets to sit there and be the guy, right? He gets to sit there and be like, "I'm the guy, I'm the bro, I'm the dude," right? The Goat writes, "Some More News is like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, but better. Nothing against Oliver either. He's one of the better late night guys." I would argue that a lot of these guys, like, most of these guys are, like, Jon Stewart is like this too. John Oliver is like this too. And so is Cody Johnston, incidentally. Domestically, they're just firing on all pistons 100% of the time. They're just like, boom, 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 absolutely. Like, everything they say domestically about like what's going on in America and what's happening in America, just like boom, 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 absolutely point on point on point on point on point, right? The moment their eyes turn to foreign policy, the moment they look out into the world, they become neocons. They become like CIA agents. They basically just take everything the empire says at face value, and they're willing to like acknowledge that reality has happened. Like the Gaza genocide was a bridge too far, where they couldn't just be like, but the CIA says. They actually were like, but reality is right here, like right here. Here's real. Like you can't deny this. So they're willing to acknowledge reality when it becomes so obvious that it's literally like pap, 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 just smacking them right in the face. But even then, they still give like a lot of credence and a lot of room for institutions that are fraudulent and are liars, basically. They just have no business being taken seriously as organizations any longer. Like, the unfortunate reality, and this is something I've been thinking about in my own life and how I'm setting myself up for the next half of my life, right, is we are going to have to create alternative secondary systems and simply ignore, to the degree that we are capable, ignore the institutions that exist in our countries. Like, we are looking at, like, the end of the Roman Empire, right? Like, the Christians erected a system that was a secondary system to the Roman Empire. They gave power to that system. And the churches came out of the fall of the Roman Empire, and it came about because people said, the empire obviously has no credibility any longer. We obviously have to tolerate its existence because it does exist. And goons and fascists and Nazis have coalesced underneath this umbrella that no longer has credibility and that we no longer give power to anymore. And that we no longer believe will act for the common good. And so the goal now is to create secondary structures. And that's essentially where we're at as a people, in my view. That the people who are saying, let's get into the halls of power and let's take that unserious. Totally 100% completely unserious. I cannot organize with you. I'm not interested in organizing with you. Conversely, the people who are sort of sitting on their butts just waiting for something to happen so that then they can be listened to and taken seriously so that they can become the power structure, also unserious. Like, completely and totally unserious. It's literally like, it's literally time to start planning to hide people under the rafters. Like, do you guys not understand what's happening? Like, that's where I am. And that's where I will continue to be. My assumption is that my country, and as well as the United States, will continue collapsing downwards into bleak, dark fascism. Like, the bleakest shit you've ever seen in your life. Like, public executions. Like, we're looking at, like, the return of lynching. Like, serious things are going to begin becoming normal again. And we're all just going to be like, oh, but what we need to do is take over the halls of power. That's over. It's finished. It's complete. We're not doing it. Like, it's not going to happen. Should a popular force ever gain enough steam to be able to do it, the Nazis would have them killed. Like, this is where we're at. This is the plant your feet on it and get ready for it. And I'm no longer willing to tolerate, like, an alternative view, because it's just like, I think it's daydreaming at this point. Like, the writing's on the wall, right? Like, the mass deportation, like, no one is standing up saying, hey, we should pull back on this. And the people who are standing up and saying, hey, we should pull back on this, are also saying, yeah, but genocide's cool. So it's obviously they're lying. Like, it's obvious that they're lying. So the whole system has become just so devastatingly corrupted and so impossible to reform that now it literally is like, create a local group, treat that local group like a government, pass laws within that group, and take that seriously, and expand that. Because you're never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, taking over your parliament, taking over your Congress. Like they'll literally implode it before that happens. Like they'll straight up just destroy it before that happens, and then they'll just rule as kings, which is essentially what they want to be doing in the first place. So, that to me is like, I think, my big takeaway from not just this week, but it's like a culmination of things for myself. Like, I've been thinking this way for a long, long time. But now it's like we've got to kill this little hope. We've got to kill this little hope that says maybe we'll vote ourselves out of it. Maybe there'll be some kind of revolution. Like, no, you need to take we need to take over. Like, we need to create mutual aid systems. The abandonment is right in front of us, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get way, 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 way worse. Like, I'm to the point now where I think that, yes, we will face a draft. Like, yes, we will face these things, and it's coming. And the people who stand up and protest against a draft, they'll just get the shit kicked out of them. Like, that's where we're heading. Like, the ICE reveal, the thing that should reveal everything to everyone, the thing that really makes it obvious, is that you have like 6,000 to 10,000 people in America who are perfectly fine being just like masked goons, going around and just scooping people up and disappearing them, right? You have people, like, you have Marines being deployed places and being like, okay, boss, whatever you say. Like, if you're actually going to continue participating in this stuff when you're looking at a guy like Donald Trump at the helm, it's over, my man. Like, it's over. JT writes, this vague populist nationalism is going to take over all the Western nations. Well, this is sort of my big point. Like, this is sort of my big point, right? And I'm just gonna start going down the list, right? Like the liberals are essentially far-right conservatives now. Like, under Mark Carney, the liberals basically have said, okay, any pretense towards liberalism is now over. The race to the bottom is continuing. The liberal idea is pretty straightforward, right? That the conservatives are their largest political foe. And so their strategy is to pull away as many conservative voters as they can from the conservatives. The idea that we should actually offer something to the populace and try to rally popular support is not a good one for the liberals, because offering something to the populace is not what you want to do. That's what you do when millions and millions of people are in the street, right? So that you can exhaust political energy as often as possible. Like, this is what makes it so cartoonish. The idea that there's actually going to be a legitimate revolution in this country, cartoonish. Like, we can't get, like, dental care for everybody. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they've got it worked. They understand that if you want that 1% raise, if you want to get the fight for 15, if you want to get any of that kind of stuff, it's going to require like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in mass protest to get even the most itsy bitsy little thing done. And like, we've got thousands, if not millions, of people on the streets constantly protesting the Palestinian genocide, and our leadership is straight up like, rah, rah, let's go. Like, where was the big one that really, yeah. Like, we're not standing up and being like, this war on Iran is stupid. We're not standing up and doing that. We're going rah-rah, right? Like, gone are the days of Chrétien where he stood up and actually said, we're not going to participate in this war with Iran. With Iraq, rather. Sorry, I confused those two because it's exactly the same. Actually, sorry, it is different because Iran is actually, like, well-equipped and prepared. It's actually going to be a devastating loss for the West. It's going to be an embarrassing loss for the West. And we're just, like, throwing all our chips in. Like, in 4 years' time, when housing prices have stayed the same at best, probably gone up, when taxes have gone up, when people's buying power has been reduced, when everything is worse for everyone, when the homeless population has continued going up, when poverty is spreading throughout the country, and it's very clear that Mark Carney did absolutely nothing to help anybody. Like, well, you think these conservative voters are going to be, like, more reasonable? You think in 4 years' time we're going to start seeing, like, thoughtful discourse surrounding Mark Carney? Like, I think it's going to be, like, rabid. I think it's going to be, like, feral, in a way. Like, people are going to be, like, foaming at the mouth. Even more so than they've been. Like, you thought the Fuck Trudeau movement was, like, a big thing? Just wait. Like, just wait. You thought those guys driving those big F4G Jimmy Thunder Cougar Falconbird guys, you thought that they were aggressive, right? Just wait. Got a first-time commenter over on Twitch, Yazdan 0001. This is what happens to the economy when we have capitalism. Yeah, like this. The capitalist economy leads to growth for a very specific group of people. Like, if you're in the and of course growth means carving up as much wealth as possible from other countries and stealing it for yourself. Like a train robber believes in growth, right? All you got to do is rob trains. Oh, Yazdan thinks capitalism is good. Okay, too stupid to talk to. So I'm just getting rid of you. I don't have tolerance for this anymore. Like, look with your eyes. Pay attention to life. You're too stupid to talk to. Get out of my chat. Like, capitalism is good, actually, because I have slaves, and the slaves do all my work. It's passive income. Dumbass. Like, we're so well beyond negotiating anymore. Like, we're so well beyond actually communicating to these dimwits that there's a problem with your shit. Like, if you can't look at the world around you and go, there's a problem here, we got a problem, then you're too stupid to talk to. That's some straight up flat earth shit. We just don't need to continue. Like, either the earth is round or it's flat. And if you're going to come in here and say the earth is flat, you're too stupid to talk to. Peanut Butter Beatrice, yeah, I nearly fell out of my chair laughing at Tucker and Ted's shouting match. Yeah, I mean, what that really revealed, and we can thank Tucker for it, is that these guys are incompetent and stupid at the highest possible level, right? Like, they're just the stupidest people. Like, Ted Cruz doesn't even understand why he should know the population of Iran. Like, here's something that Ted Cruz literally posted. He put this out here, right? He did an AI-generated image of Tucker Carlson interviewing Luke Skywalker, asking what is the population of the Death Star. It's, like, completely out of touch with reality. It's, like, utterly detached. No self-awareness whatsoever on the part of Ted Cruz, right? That Ted Cruz genuinely actually thinks and believes that he is part of some kind of rebellion. He's comparing Iran, a country with no navy. They can't come to America. They can't actually participate in America. They can't touch America outside of like maybe every so often there'll be some kind of random act of terrorism, right? They can't actually fundamentally change the fabric of America in a meaningful way. And he's comparing that to a moon that blew up planets. Like, we are looking at stupidity institutionalized. We're looking at people who have been rewarded for being stupid their whole life. And the people who are vying for their jobs, right? The Democrats, the opposition to this, are just as stupid. So we're looking at an institutionalized stupidity now that we're not going to recover from. Like, we're not going to recover from it. We're not going to suddenly start voting in super smart people. We're not suddenly going to see super intelligent people who have any foresight or even care to have foresight suddenly get into these positions. Like, the empire is collapsing and everybody is just gobbling up as much as they possibly can and shoving it into their faces as fast as possible. Like, it's every man for themselves at this point. That's straight up what it is. It's every man for themselves. And there's the people who you talk to on a regular basis, like literally the person you see who talks to you with their face is the most important person in your life. And whether you like it or not, that's the person you're going to organize with. And if you're talking to a person and you're thinking to yourself, hey, there's no way that I would ever be able to organize with this person, you're in trouble. You got to move on to something else. Like, you got to bounce out of that. Cuz like the mask is coming off. The veil is coming off. And we've seen like the mask come off and then they put it back on. Like, the thing that I'm really trying to warn people about, and the thing that I'm really trying to like hope lands, is that we haven't yet seen the empire come to a point where it is full force. The mask is not only off, but it's been put like in a closet and it's gathering dust and it's done. Like, it's a relic of a bygone age. We haven't gotten to the point where we're seeing the empire really rule as an empire, and with all the hoorah and all of the like, we are here to steal your resources and you should thank us for it. Like, all of that kind of stuff that's constantly happening behind the scenes, which you can find, and you can find people talking about it, right? Like, if you find your way to get behind the mask, you can see all of this stuff. But now the mask is like, it slips and it comes down, but soon they'll just be like, oh, what do I even need this for? Yeah, go to work, slaves. And that's coming. Like, that's coming. Brace yourself for it, get ready for it, because it's coming. And dimwits like the guy that was just in my Twitch chat are just going to be like, oh, good, we get to work 80 hours a week. Just work harder, plebs. For the glory of the nation. Capitalism's the best system. Like, propaganda works, and Americans especially are just as dim-witted as it gets. So it's just getting really bad. And it's going to get worse. Just way, way worse. Oh yeah, Mark Hamill will probably vouch for this shit. Yeah. Mark Hamill's a Zionist piece of shit. Like, it's so disappointing to see that the guy that played one of the great American heroes, which is Luke Skywalker, ends up being a total piece of shit. The GOAT writes, he also said in the same interview that Fulgencio Batista was a communist. Yeah, dude, it's just some embarrassing bullshit. Like, I can't even bring myself to watch these things, right? Like, I saw that there was like a Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz thing, and I knew that it was going to be memed, right? There was going to be memes of it. And like, the meme is what matters at this point, right? I can't really even bring myself to watch these because it's just so like embarrassing. These guys have no shame. They're proud of how stupid they are. Like their pride in their stupidity is what really gets me. JT writes, the only silver lining would be that this is as deep as their rhetoric goes, but this is surface level. Subconsciously, it goes deep. Yeah, no, like we're gonna see segregation return in America. Like I just I cannot express to you guys the there is no bottom to this well. Like there's no end to it, right? Like they're going to return us to straight up like monarchical feudalism. Like they don't actually care. Like Stalin said it best. Do you want to know what the capitalists want? The triumph of their interests, of their purses. Even if it means the doom of their own country. That is what they want. Like, they have no concept of loyalty, honor. Like, take a look at a guy like Ted Cruz, right? Like, Ted Cruz was anti-Trump, and, like, literally Donald Trump was insulting his wife and, like, making it very personal. And Ted Cruz was, like, calling Donald Trump names. And then Donald Trump got power, and now Ted Cruz is just, like, a loyal lapdog. So he's got no principles. Like, he has no sense of self-worth or value, right? He has no integrity, obviously. He's just a toady for power. And if the ghouls in power tell him to do whatever, he'll just do it. Yeah, J.D. Vance is the exact same story. Good to see you, Hall. J.D. Vance is the exact same story. So you just have these, like, total sycophantic, limp-wristed losers who are obviously just in it for the personal power and personal prestige. And their strategy moving forward is to destroy the country as fast as possible. Like, and accelerate that destruction. And now we're seeing that here in Canada. Like, we're seeing these things manifest themselves in Canada, where our leadership are just a bunch of unprincipled toadies too. Like, when Donald Trump was all like, Canada 51st state, we're going to make the 51st state, it's coming, right? Canadians were like up in arms and kind of rah-rah about it, getting that kind of nationalist vibe. But now that that's sort of chilled out a little bit and Donald Trump has sort of stepped down from that rhetoric, Canada's just back on board. Like, we don't give a fuck. It won't be too much longer until we're just doing the same shit. Because the people in charge want it to be that way. They want to round up people. They want to terrorize the citizens. They want to make life harder for everybody. Because at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is build a slave system. Right? Here in Canada, we have what's called the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. It's a slave system. The purpose of the system is to just funnel in slaves, to force them to work in the fields for $0, right? To make things as difficult as possible for their lives, and burn them out and then deport them out of the country, right? Like that's why it's the temporary foreign worker, right? The idea is that you just get some poor guy that's fleeing from the American wars, wherever they may be, throw him into a field for a season or two while he sleeps in a bunk room with 14 other people in some like cockroach-infested bullshit environment, and then forget to pay him and deport him back to Venezuela or wherever he came from. Like, that's the system. And so now we're erecting like a private prison system where at the end, like what we'll do is we'll have these temporary foreign workers come out, and then we'll burn them out on the fields until they literally can't stand anymore. And then we'll just scoop them up and put them in a prison and grind them down like manufacturing pins or whatever it is they'll have them do until they die. Like, that's what we're doing. Like, that's literally like what we're doing. And people are coming in here being like, capitalism's the best system that ever existed. I love slavery. Yeah, I'm sure you do, bud. JT writes, for capitalists, the state was only a vehicle for profit. Longevity was never a true ambition, only a foundation for theft. Their moderate appeals were just the previous status quo PR. Like, the role of the Democrats and the role of liberal institutions was always to soften the blow. That's always what it was. It wasn't to prevent the blow. It was always just to sort of soften it and make it more palatable. And now they're just not even going to bother. Right? They're just not even going to bother softening the blow anymore. It's just going to be like, this is what it is. Praise your monarch. And if you don't like me as a monarch, then wait until you see the other guy. So it's like it is like Beelzebub versus Lucifer. Like, vote for the lesser of two evils. Sure, bud. We'll get right on that. Mark Jr., good to see you, my man. Yeah, these politicians either really hate each other and lie, or they're still lying and just play along the spectacle of theater. Regardless, they are lying to the public and work for their own interests and the interests of their donors. Yeah, I mean, like, I think even working for the interests of their donors is like kind of a superficial, like, they care about themselves and their wallet, and that is it. Like, full stop. They have fully given away their humanity. They have fully sacrificed their ability to reason, to have empathy, to be a meaningful human in the world for money. They worship money. Like, money is a god. They pay fealty exclusively to money. They don't care about anything else. And at this point, they can't. Like, there's not going to be some kind of come to Jesus moment, like Ebenezer Scrooge having like oh my goodness, the ghost of Christmas past came in the night, and I had visions of the past, and then I saw the present and the future and all of this. Like, that, it's just not going to happen. Like, these guys are going to die on their deathbeds, looking at their bank account as a kind of score screen. And when they die, they're going to be like, I placed 6th. Well, 6th is okay, I guess. They'll have to console themselves with their place that and that is literally the only thing they care about. Of course, emotions exist, and they are still in the sway of like real emotions. And so, like, when their children despise them, when the people around them call them ghouls, right, it does have an impact, but they can't interpret that. They completely lack the tools. Mucho Chili, is the people in charge or the companies behind? In the end is the same, but how can we call it democracy when in this capitalist system the power is the company paying for their interest? Yeah, it's called fascism, my man. Like, a quote that's been attributed to Mussolini was, fascism would be better called corporatism because it is the merger of business and state, right? Like, it's perfectly understandable. Like, you understand what a theocracy is pretty straightforwardly. I don't really even need to explain to you what a theocracy is. You understand it's the merger of church and state. Well, when corporate power and the state merge, that's called fascism. Like, one of the funny things that I find when I have studied fascism, and I study people that write about fascism, is that it's always like, there's these big long, the 14 signs of fascism, and like it's all of these, like, fascism is a very straightforward thing. It is when the business class and the state merge for the benefit of the business class. That's what fascism is. In a very straightforward, easy to define, and even more easy to define and understand once you see the parallels between it and theocracies. Yeah. Mucho Chili, being the richest in the cemetery. What a goal. And that is their goal. Like, that's straight up their goal. Right? Like, their goal in all of this, they've replaced spirituality. They've replaced their existential journey. They've replaced everything with just money good. And it really is that way. It's pretty embarrassing, actually. Like, it's pretty embarrassing. This is a really kind of cringy, embarrassing time where the goals of our leaders are so pathetic and so just despicably stupid. Literally, like, I have $1 billion, but I could have 1 billion more. Like, it's just the end of intelligence, the end of empathy, the end of reason, the end of everything. Just history will. I'll be in the history book. Who cares? Like, who cares? You're gonna be some like minor footnote, and when everybody looks at you, they're gonna be like, "Holy shit, what a loser." JT writes, Keir Starmer picking up Trump's dropped papers at the G7 was poignant. I mean, the G7 was such a fucking farce. Like, the whole thing's just such a ridiculous. Like, they all came together. They all jerked each other off. They looked stupid. They looked clownish. They look like a bunch of just like look. Do these guys look like they're in control of anything? Do these guys look like they actually have power or are meaningfully wielding that power? Joe, good to see you, my man. Mucho Chili says, as a Basque person, I know very well what fascism is. What surprises me is that workers of the United States can't see it with their own eyes. Yeah, because we're in this period of, like, we have replaced spirituality with capitalism, basically. Like, we worship money. We worship the self. That's why we have this celebrity culture that we do, right? Like, people like the Kardashians should be nobodies. Like, nobody should care about anything that they have to say or what they do. Like, they're influencers. That's what they do. And it's like, okay, but who cares about them at all? But when you live in a culture that worships the self, right, and you live vicariously through them as yourself, that's how they manifest. And then finally, we worship chaos. Like, the free market is just this chaos system. That it is not at all hyperbolic. Like, it's kind of like medieval fantasy language, but it's not at all hyperbolic to say that these people are chaos death knights. They worship death, they worship chaos, they worship themselves, and they worship money, and they don't care about anything else. And they're genuinely willing to grind up everything that exists in order to empower themselves. Like, it's kind of necromantic. Like, when you contemplate and consider what it is we're actually doing, there's like a very like necromantic kind of thinking process about this. Like, we're literally dredging up the bones of the dead, putting them through some kind of alchemical process to make like this magical liquid that we then pour into infernal machines so that we can wage war on creation itself. And that's like literally what we're doing. Like, we're necromancers. We're death knights. We don't care about anything. And the only thing that they're trying to do now is kind of prop up an image of sanity and competency. Like, that's who Mark Carney is here in Canada. Mark Carney is an attempt by the ruling class. Mark Carney is an attempt by the ruling class to give the appearance of competency. But the trouble is that even if you believe Mark Carney when he says that we should have empathy and we should care about people, even if you believe that, the system that he professes to support is a religious ideology. It's not actually a functioning economic system. That the concept of neoliberalism, which is siphon all wealth away from all things and put it into the hands of a very small group of people, and then that somehow will result in a benefit for everyone, is obviously not real. Like in a very like 1+1=2 kind of way. Like neoliberal trickle down economics is not economics. It's phrenology. It's just like this fake idea. It's the concept that we had this idea that this is how we thought the world worked, but it has completely failed. And instead of actually like going like, oh, that actually doesn't work, that actually doesn't increase prosperity, and instead of pivoting away from failed systems that don't work, they've just doubled down on it and now have erected a religious ideology. Which is why I think that we're in for just extremely devastating times. The next 10, 20, 50 years are just going to be total internal devastation. Just devastation after devastation after devastation after devastation after devastation. Because not only are the people who are in power following this religious ideology, but the people they're training to take power after they're too old to continue the death cult also believe in the religious ideology. So to loop this back around to your kind of question, like why can't Americans see this? It's directly in front of them. Well, for exactly the same reason for why Christians can't see that, you know, a wizard's probably not going to come back at any moment. They're caught in a religious ideology and a religious worldview and a religious way of looking at the world with no interest in reinterpreting reality through a material analysis, right? They're not actually interested in reality. They're only interested in getting out of reality that which supports their base assumptions of reality. Like, it's like how a guy, you'll find that there are men in the world who will feign interest in women for sex. Right? They're not actually interested in what these women have to say. They don't care about their positions. They don't care. They just want sex. And once they get the sex, they abandon the woman. Like, it's the same exact principle. That, except in this case, the woman is reality itself. Where the only time that these people engage with reality is just to drain away whatever it is they can get to support their kind of fetishistic desires. And now we've created systems like AI. We've created these systems that are just like cognitive bias confirmers, essentially. That AI essentially exists to give the most ridiculous worldviews the most amount of power and the most amount of credibility possible. And the people who are like doubling down on these religious views want to debate people. They want you to actually take them seriously, and I no longer do. Like, I'm not interested in convincing anybody of anything, because we're at a point now where if you're still buying into this stuff, you simply don't want to be convinced. Just how a person who is dead convinced that Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment and is going to reward all the good little white Christians for their genocides. You're just not going to be convinced, right? If you can't be convinced that genocide is bad, right? If you can't be convinced that like 1+1 does in fact equal 2, then there's no reason to have a conversation anymore. That it's time to start drawing battle lines, and it's time to stop engaging these people as if they're serious people, because the only method in which they are serious is the willingness to do violence. And their willingness to be absorbed into this death cult that they've created for themselves. And like the entire rest of the world is correct to isolate the United States. The entire rest of the world is absolutely correct to draw a line around the West and say these guys can no longer be talked to. It's completely correct. Like we have done everything we can. We have done everything possible to make it impossible to actually engage meaningfully with reality anymore. Because engaging with reality means that the people who are in charge get slightly less wealth. Like, we can't negotiate anymore. It's over. That's why when people come in, I don't debate them anymore. Like, why would I debate with a raving psychopathic lunatic? Like, go take a rabies shot. Like, maybe read a book or something. but I'm not the path to convince people of anything. I'm here to let you know that you sound like a lunatic. Yeah, we're cattle to them. That's exactly right, actually. Like, and this is the big problem. A big problem with people who are like kind of like just normies in the world, right? Like they don't want to admit that it's gotten this bad. They don't want they can't, like, they themselves, like regular average normal everyday people, are like relatively empathetic and have the capacity to actually think about things like, oh, that's a person, right? That, oh, there's a person, you know, I hope that they do well, right? To the degree that I am able to affect them, I try to treat people with respect and dignity, right? This is why the whole like religious movement of like just be nice, right? Just be nice to one another, right? Well, that's very quaint. That's a very quaint worldview to hold on to, because it manages to completely sidestep the systemic forces that exist in the society and just lets you essentially wash your hands of everything. You can just be, well, I'm just a nice person, so I don't need to pay any attention to the fact that ICE is rounding people up. I don't need to pay any attention to the fact that we're selling weapons to the Israelis to commit a genocide. I don't need to pay any attention to that. I'm a nice person. Right. So it's just like the most vapid, superficial, cosplaying religious identity. Omnicidal tendencies, good to see you. Test accomplished. Like, and we just can't negotiate with these people anymore. Right? You're either against genocide or you're for it. You're either against mass slaughter or you're for it. You're either against slavery or you're for it. And if you're for it, then you're an enemy. And you should be treated as such. And we should call you a lunatic. Like, people like Matt Walsh are Nazis, and they should go to the Hague. Right? And that shouldn't be a controversial take at all. Mucho Chili says, good point. I can't convince him. One step ahead. I can put your religious belief or non-scientific beliefs in the same level as my values or knowledge, at the same level of your nonsense. You are right. Yeah. Like, these people should be disregarded. And they should be told that they are being disregarded because they're a lunatic. Like, if you are in favor of slavery, if you are in favor of genocide, if you are in favor of another failed war, if you're in favor of any of this stuff, then you're a ridiculous, crazy person. Like, flat earther. Like, to me, when I look back on my life, the one thing that I wish I had have taken more seriously, and I wish that everybody had have been like flashing red alert. Like, send up the red flag. We must do something about this right now. It was when the flat earthers started showing up. Because if you can believe the earth is flat, you can believe anything you like. Like, you can believe anything you like. Mucho Chili says, again, sounds like a very low bar, but that's where we are. Human rights in the minimum. Below that, I will fight you. Yeah. Human rights is the minimum. Below that, I will fight you. Yeah, I mean, like, we're regressing back to monkey, basically. Like, we're just talking monkeys at this point. There's no conception. Like, the people who are in power have no systemic analysis. It's literally just like, I have power, me wield power. Like, it's just a big monkey with a giant club. Except the club's a nuclear bomb. Yeah, Baldy McNose here. Good to see you, my man. Capitalist loves people isolated, not seeing their loved ones. Yeah. No, every system needs to be connected into the idea that, like, you need to buy a solution, right? Like, that's how capitalism works, is that if they would meter the air if they could. Like, people need to understand that. And sorry, that ties into what I was saying before. Like, regular people can't understand the depravity of the ruling class anymore. Like, they don't fully understand. You can't appeal to these people's empathy. They don't have it. Like, they just don't have it. Like, it's over. It's finished. It's done. Like we need to be arming ourselves and preparing. Like, that's where we are. Are you arming yourself? No? Then you're just going to be swept up in all of this. Right? Are you creating like a group of people who have weapons and are prepared to confront the very real consequences of Nazism in the country? If the answer is no, then you're going to be swept up in all of it. Like, and that's just how it's going to go. Yeah, they have the power of the pen. Soft power is so noble. Yeah, but people don't want to do this. Like, I'll say that kind of stuff and people will think I'm being hysterical or over dramatic, right? Over the top. No, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not. We've seen this song before. We've seen this story told before, right? It's happening again. It's directly in front of your face. Content wants me to chuck articles. You got it, my man. Republican proposes new ICE detention center surrounded by alligators. Like, it's cartoonish. Like, it's like a Bond villain. Like, it's just gotten Cotton, thank you so much for this article, dude. Just thanks. Like, who's this Republican? Florida, of course, Attorney General James Uthmeyer proposed a new immigration detention center to be built in his state to assist immigration and customs enforcement with mass deportation efforts, dubbing the proposed facility Alligator Alcatraz. What a bunch of clowns, man. What a bunch of just clownish people. Just total fucking clown shoes. And people don't want to believe it's gotten here. People don't want to believe that we're here now. Like, they don't want to actually buy in and completely accept that, like, here there be Nazis. And everybody's still talking about it as if this situation can be salvaged, and it can't. No, I'm seeing your stuff, Omnicidal. Mark Jr. writes, in some ways the American workers, specifically white people, believe they benefit from the status quo, when in reality they don't. But they do have the racial privilege over brown and black peoples. Well, and if you think only in terms of, like, a year, if that, right? Like, if you're thinking quarter by quarter, the way that everybody does, and you don't actually ever have serious conversations about, like, okay, well, in 5 years, what are we expecting to see, right? In 10 years, 100 years, what are we expecting to see, right? If you worship chaos the way that we do in the West, and you are convinced that planning anything is bad, and everything is just being done sort of ad hoc through, like, random bribes and a constant system of erect someone's vision, tear that down to replace it with something else, tear it down to replace it with something else. And everything is basically just, how do we siphon as much wealth away from regular average people so that we can create systems of extraction, right? That's what everything is becoming, and it has become. It's just a system of extraction, a system of just rent, basically. Like, you rent, your life is up for rent, right? You rent out your life so that you can rent a shelter, and so that you can kind of have a lease on your life to actually exist and live. You can't actually build a civil society this way, which is great, because that's the ruling class is not interested in building a civil society. Wick, good to see you, my man. How you doing out there? JT says, the EU and NATO nations will keep hold until they fold, like the US is doing. Like, eventually there just comes a point. Like, what we're really seeing, and what makes this moment so scary for Westerners, is that the empire is finally turning in on itself. A figure like Donald Trump is willing to be a bit more bombastic about it, but really it's the people who follow him up, right? Like, the people who follow him up are going to be, like, like full on the salute, like everything. Like it's going to be the costumes and the outfits and new flags and new uniforms and new, like it's going to be the whole shebang. We're going to make this look good. We're going to make this like a big, like the parades and everything. Like they're going to do it. Like Donald Trump is trying to do it, but it's not working, right? Like the real trouble that I think the empire is facing, and when I say the empire, I mean the corporate empire specifically, is that there's clearly dissension within the military ranks. Like they're clearly not pleased with what's going on, and they're eventually just going to get it. So they're like, oh no, we're gonna fill the ranks with like dyed in the wool true believer like mega cultists who are gonna like lockstep and do the salute. Like that's what they want, and they will get it. They'll curate it. They'll make it happen. Because that's sort of the goal at the end of it all, is to rule through fear and authority. Like like, make no mistake, Gaza is the model. Like, make no mistake about it. Mucho Chili says, where's the intergenerational care? Yeah, no, you have to actually have like wisdom or like foresight or actually care about your children, right? Like they don't. It's all about just money. Money, money, money. It'll all work itself out because I worship chaos. I believe that, right? Just constantly. Omnicidal Tendency says, there will be no Shia resistance in the Middle East to counter the West or Israel. The resistance that's in the Middle East is for sure really being projected most specifically out of China. Like, I don't think that the conversation that's happening in Iran is a religious conversation. I think it's a very specific existential political conversation. Like, I think that it's very pragmatic and very practical. I don't think that they are forming ranks along religious lines at all. I think that the Iranians are very much like, oh, the Americans are going to try to do to us what they did to Iraq, our neighbor. Right? They're going to do it. And we've been preparing for that the whole time. Meanwhile, places like Russia and China get huge amounts of oil out of Iran. Like they have huge amounts of deposits in Iran, and they sell them primarily to Russia and China. And Russia and China are absolutely going to back Iran. Like they've said so. They've already sent supplies. They're already making deals. They're they understand that Iran has become something of a linchpin for Chinese growth and Russian economic stability. And so this is why the West is so desperate to overthrow Iran, because they want to weaken China and they want to weaken Russia, right? Like it isn't just as simple as, and of course, if they could get in there and steal the resources for themselves, they'd love it. But the trouble is that because the Americans are so stupid and incapable, they're just kind of stumbling in there with this classic American shock and awe strategy, because America for the longest time has been able to basically bully itself around the world, right? Like it's always picked some very small, defenseless country that doesn't have a navy or an air force and barely has a standing military. And they've always gone in there and just basically bullied the shit out of them. And now they're actually facing like a real legitimate force. Like what the Americans are confronted with now is way more dangerous than the Soviet Union ever was. Like what's happening now in the world is if once you take the white supremacist worldview, we're just gonna go ahead and close this window. We're gonna go ahead and close that window. Sorry, guys. Big gust of wind. Like once you take the white supremacist worldview, which is that white people are the best and we should own everything, because there's a hierarchy and someone has to stand on top of the hierarchy because we're Nazis, then like what China and Russia and Iran as like the axis of evil, which literally was George W. Bush said that. Like it's like within living memory, these guys are using terms like the axis of evil. So if you have this white supremacist worldview and you believe in white supremacy, which you do if you're an American, likely, even if it is passive, then what's happening out in the world is the scariest shit ever, right? Like China, Russia, Iran, Africa, these places are creating major military alliances with one another, right? This isn't some like rinky-dinky like island system, right? This isn't some country with 5 million people and like Soviet weapons. These are some of the strongest economies that exist on the planet, with militaries designed specifically to fight America. Like, I just don't think and so when the Americans go in, they've only ever fought wars against people who are badly equipped, using guerrilla tactics, trying desperately in like a very existential way to survive amidst this giant lumbering around. They've never actually had like a straight up peer competitor that was willing to stand in front of them and be like, I didn't hear no bell. And so they don't actually know how to do this. Like, they don't actually know how to move forward because they've never had to, and they're not intelligent enough to do it. Like, when you have such a small amount of awareness, when you have such a and XD writes, they never scrapped with a real superpower since World War II. And, like, they didn't really in World War II. Like, they were basically the mop-up crew. Like, the Soviets win World War II. The Soviets are the ones that defeat the Nazis. Clearly. Like, I think if you say anything else, you're absolutely foolish. The American apologists that love to come in and be like, yeah, but we were selling the Soviets steel, so we deserve some credit. Yeah, you were selling the Nazis vehicles. Like, Henry Ford was selling the Nazis the engines for the war machines. So, congratulations, America funded both sides of a war. Yeah. So there's your credit. So America has never really engaged in anything very serious unless it's against themselves. Like, the Civil War is probably the last time they actually fought on equal footing. Right? Like, the Civil War is probably the only time America has actually fought a foe that was of equivalence and where it could have kind of gone anyway, right? And and it's like Americans fighting Americans. Like, when the Americans join World War II, I'm more or less of the opinion that the Americans only join World War II because they know that if they don't, the Soviets will take all of Europe. They'll just sweep across Europe and they'll take it all. And then what do? They'll make it communist, right? Which is a huge blow to the system of capital. It might have actually killed the system of capital. It might have been like the actual end of the system of capital if the Soviets had been able to do that. And so the Americans come in to save capitalism, which is what Roosevelt said he did, was he saved capitalism. Like, so these guys are religious acolytes. Their goal is not to increase the well-being of any human that exists. Their goal is to save capitalism and to protect private property rights and make money. Like, Mark Jr. says, ever since you've talked on your stream about how video games are spreading fascism, I haven't been able to unsee it. Some of the top right-wing propaganda streamers are, in fact, gamers. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Like Call of Duty, which is the number one streamed video game, right? Like, it's what most people watch. It's what most people play. Call of Duty It's just fascist propaganda at the highest possible level, and nakedly too. Like, that's the part about it that's so wild, is that anybody would be like when I say that, people should be like, yeah, we know, yeah, obviously, right? But I like the gunplay and it's all fun and all, ha ha ha, right? But that's not what happens. People are like, what are you talking about? Fascist propaganda? Blah. It's like literally as fascist as it gets. Like, if the Nazis were doing it, you would be like, yeah, of course. JT says the pic of Bibi Netanyahu with the comical round bomb about Iran at 90% to detonation. It's so cartoonish. I mean, the whole thing is cartoonish. Like, it's hard to believe these people really exist. Omnicidal writes, I disagree. European countries are consolidating to EU and NATO. Yeah, there is consolidation that's happening. Iceland and Norway to join the EU. Switzerland said they want to work with NATO more. I mean, that's all well and good. Like, there is like a consolidation, but like, how to say this properly? Like, it's not going to work. Like, it literally can't work. You can't simultaneously alienate the entire rest of the world and then also have prosperity for yourself. Like, once, like in 5-10 years time, people within the EU are going to experience like a fairly significant decline in their living standards. Like, especially as colonial projects begin to dry up. So much of the EU is like still making, like France is a good case in point. Like, they're still making so much wealth from just their colonies in Africa. And that's starting to come to an end. And it's coming to an end because of Chinese influence within Africa. And more movements are popping up where people are like, hey, we should create our own systems and we should be self-sufficient. We shouldn't need to rely on the EU or the Europeans in order to feed our people or in order to have stable systems. We need to build up our own productive capacity and be self-sufficient in that way. And you're seeing more of that happen. And this is literally why Gaddafi is assassinated, by the way. It's just straight up like, this is the kind of stuff he was saying. Like, hey, we should create a Pan-African alliance and create our own currency and actually do our own stuff. And so they assassinated him for it. And it's like obvious that that's the case. Just like a Gestapo just coming in and just ganking a guy because he's not playing by the rules anymore. And so when times get tough, like when things get tough for the EU, and it will, like you can't follow this line. You can't continue following this line and expect it to result in something positive for yourself or your country. Like, you just can't actually constantly wage war and constantly destroy your credibility and constantly alienate yourself and isolate yourself from sane, rational people, and then somehow expect prosperity to come out of it. Like, it's just not how it's going to work. And so I'm sure that right now, when there is this like rah consolidation, right, there's all this big talk, but at the end of the day, like, people want to feed their children. And once that starts happening, like once it starts to be the case that people are like, hey, like, why is the currency inflating at this rate? Why can't I actually just work a normal job and actually pay bills and actually get this kind of stuff? Why are you slashing social services? Why are you increasing military spending? Like, why is all of this happening? You're going to see like the empire turn on itself. And these empires are going to turn on themselves. And they're like Europe especially has like a huge long has a huge long history of fighting internally. Joe Anthony says, I'm sorry, who is Carney? Mark Carney is the current Prime Minister of Canada. He won the last election. He's the Liberal leader. He's the current Prime Minister of Canada. Harold DeBold, first-time chatter. Hey, CC, make sure you keep in touch with the Bricks channel on YouTube. Think Bricks? I think I do pay attention to that channel. But the Like, I just think Americans don't really understand what's going on with this BRICS organization, and like that, like what we're really seeing, and the big thing that we're really, really experiencing as a people is we're experiencing two contradicting worldviews. We're seeing two contradicting worldviews come to a head with one another. And these two contradicting worldviews can be articulated very cleanly. And you can see it most obviously with the rise of China. That really the rise of China is like, oh, and on the one, and like there are all these like religious, sects and things like this, and so it can get kind of muddy. But for the most part, everybody falls into one of these two camps, and it's being divided: the West on one side and the global South on the other side. And the battle lines are being divided based on this worldview. On the and I'm going to say it in a way that is it makes it seem sane, right? So on the one side, you have a group of people who are saying financialization, money, the ability to move money, the ability to control money, and the flows of currencies is power. That is the center of an economy. That if I have a lot of wealth, right, and I can turn that wealth into assets, and then I can turn those assets back into money or into liquid currency, or I could have cryptocurrencies, I can have that kind of stuff. This is power. And it does give an individual a sense of power. First-time commenter over on Twitch, Flying Man. Hello, sir, are you from Canada? I am. Flying Man asks, I know a guy, James Smith, from Canada. Do you know him? Yeah, I do. I do know James Smith. I'll tell him you said hi, Flying Man. That's some good old Canadian humor there. That's funny. And so financialization, right? As an individual, like I'm sure Elon Musk feels like he has a lot of power, right? And so capitalists have created an idea or have pursued something that says, okay, finance power, the ability to mobilize resources through the power of finance, is the center of national power and national authority. So banking, right? Hedge funds, these organizations are seen as central to power, and that is what power emanates from. Well, the Chinese model, right, the Eastern model, the Marxist model, if I dare say, is that power emanates from productive forces. The ability to create things. The ability to take a random assortment of nonsense and craft it into a usable object, and then manifest that object into reality. If you have the ability to do that, especially if you have the ability to do that at a large scale, that's real power. That the financier will say, okay, well, how do you mobilize all of that, right? How do you actually put these forces into production? How do you incentivize things, and how do you do that? This is how the financier would talk about this. And of course, the Marxist, the person who's focused on productive forces, is say, you talk about it, you agree, and you do it. Like, you don't operate within a chaos system. You just come to terms with things, and you agree on what it is you expect to see, and then you do it. And so we're seeing these two contradicting worldviews come to a head with one another. That the financial power, people who believe that money is God, are being confronted with a force in the world that is saying, no, money is just a tool. Money is just something that you use as like a measurement tool in order to allocate resources appropriately within your country. But it isn't a god. And the people who have the most of it are not intelligent or good people, right? They've just managed to gatekeep themselves and get themselves into positions to be able to siphon as much of that wealth up into their own coffers as possible. But that doesn't mean that they have any power that supersedes the people who have the ability to actually create stuff. Like, to me, the biggest heartbreak of this era, the biggest heartbreak of this whole era, is that we could really be building and we could really be doing all kinds of stuff. That the people who walk around and say, how are you going to pay for that, might as well be saying, oh, we can't build a building, we don't have enough inches. Like, we have worshipped money. We have put money on a pedestal. We have said that money is the end goal and that people with money, that's where power emanates from, and it's not true. And so the BRICS organization is operating, like, sure, it has money and it deals with money as a tool, right? Because that's how you negotiate things and that's how you communicate things and that's how you keep track of things, right? But they fully understand that, like, what do you think is more powerful? A high-speed rail train that goes between two cities, or 5 guys with $100 billion apiece? Which one is actually more powerful? Well, if you think about things in terms of, like, the national good and what it's going to look like in 100 years, obviously the high-speed rail is more powerful. Like, what is more powerful and more in the interest of your nation? Ensuring that every single citizen can go get a high-quality education for free, or making sure that 5 guys have $100 billion? Like, which one of those two things do you think in 100 years is going to result in a more unified, stronger nation? And now we're kind of coming to the reality of, and I've already said it on this stream, but it's worth reiterating, the people in power don't want a strong nation. They don't want a powerful people. They don't want people to be living even a life of contentment, right? They want money for themselves, and they will happily destroy their nation in order to get it. Mucho Chili says, in the end of the day, a tool can do a job or create something, but money can only buy something. Yeah. And we're just seeing that idea just at the highest possible level. And, like, reality wins. Like, I just don't know why we're fooling ourselves into thinking something else is going to happen. Like, reality wins. Like, at the end of the day, reality shows up and says, hey, like, these guys over here have enormous high-speed rail systems. They've got enormous institutional power, just creating stuff, just shitting out solar panels, just shitting out microchips, just shitting out everything. Like you want an electric car? Here's one for $2,000. Like just shitting it out as fast as they can, and then increasing their productive ability to be able to do it. Just again and again and again. And the only time the West looks at it, the only thing they have to say about it is, yeah, but who's making any money? Sure, they have free infinite energy for all time, but who's making any money on that? Like, and that's actually what's happening. Like, I've read articles on this stream where it basically boils down to that. That, like, if they keep making this amount of solar panels, people won't be able to meter the power and make any money off of people's power usage. It's a total disaster for capital. For who's going to make any money? And the concept that, like, nobody, you dimwit. Like, the goal is to make resources so ubiquitous and so, like, to make so much of it that it's like air. That you can just, like, breathe it. Like, nobody's metering the air, are they? right? The idea is to make so much of it that you can just use it and no one will care because it'll just be so plentiful and so abundant and so overwhelmingly just present that anyone and everyone will be able to connect into it and use it. But who will make any money? Just fucking dimwits. Mucho Chili, which one is better? The Hyperloop Elon wanted to install in California or the high-speed trail net that works in China? Yeah, both projects started at the same time. Yeah. Like, and Elon Musk is doing everything he can to kill mass transit systems because he's such a stupid person that he thinks that his whole thing is the electric car. But his electric cars are crap. And the Chinese are, like, they literally have had to put 100% tariffs on Chinese cars to make sure that the American market doesn't just get flooded with Chinese cars, because that's exactly what would happen. The Chinese are building better cars at a faster rate for cheaper. And it's only getting, that line is only accelerating, right? It's only getting higher quality, cheaper, more effective, more affordable for everyone. And so the capitalist system has to go, oh, well, if we don't slap on a 200% tariff on these cars, then our guy, Elon Musk, who we care about for some reason, his whole thing is going to collapse. And it's like, yeah, it should collapse. You guys should collapse. Like, your system has failed. Joe writes, one day the profit motive will be a relic of a bygone era. Like, my feeling is that eventually money itself, and this follows like the Leninist line completely, like money itself will simply fade into the background of people's lives. That it'll still exist, but everyone, like, there'll be like a very small group of people whose job it is to keep track of the money. And the only reason people will keep track of the money is just to kind of keep track of, like, what goods and services are being used. Are there any outliers, right? Like, if you look at your books and suddenly you go, oh, wow, we're using 15% more of X than is normal, then you can follow the money, right? There's a money trail. And that to me is the whole purpose of money, that you can keep track of things. And you should keep track of things, right? A rational society should keep track of things, and a good way to keep track of things is money. But by creating it as a public commodity and treating it as though it is a commodity in and of itself, instead of just as a tool of measurement to facilitate trade, like a real, like, if we insisted that we had to use money to exchange for whatever reason because we're religiously bought into it, well, then we should at least, like, collect it in and redistribute it every year, right? That's what tax day should be. It should just basically be the money going whoop and then back out. And the purpose of that is to stabilize it and just to make it like, yeah, like we're just monkeys with, like, guns and technology, and, like, I don't want the money to pool underneath one guy so we have a king. Like, just nope. Like, that's essentially what they did in the Dark Ages, or the Middle Ages, I should say, in order to stabilize their currencies. But we don't do that because we think that money is a commodity in and of itself. We think that money is a goal. Like, we think it's a god, frankly. Like, we think that it's worth more than, you know, breathable air and drinkable water. Arable land. Like, we place money ahead of everything. You can see that most blatantly in the Trudeau government. The Trudeau government stated it explicitly. It's like, yes, we do have environmental concerns, but the economy. What's this economy you're talking about? Oh, it's the wealth of 5 people who are your donators. Okay, got it. Friendly Fire FFS says, oh, your work can buy a Chinese-built electric forklift for the price of just the battery for the American one. Yeah. Like, and even what's getting even crazier is that if you go look at what China is doing, it's creating infrastructure So not only are they selling like thousands and thousands and thousands of these EV cars, they've also built public infrastructure where you can drive your electric car up to a battery replacement facility, and you can just drive it in, and the machine will take the battery out of your car and then replace it with a new battery, and it's just as fast as filling up a tank of gas like you do now. Only you just drive into a thing, it goes poop, takes the battery out, puts a new battery in, right? And you just carry on your merry way. So this whole like narrative of like, well, electric vehicles don't last as long as the gas and they don't have the power, what are you gonna, well, China just like, oh, we'll just put these depots all over the place. So that when your battery starts to drain, you just roll it on in. Poink, poink. Like this is what's so embarrassing about these like pro-capitalist simps. These just dim-witted religious ideologues now, is that reality has shown you that you're wrong. You're wrong at the highest possible level. Like, capitalism is the best way to innovate. Obviously false. So blatantly obviously false. Just like a guy who stepped into a black hole and fell down to the bottom and is in total darkness being like, man, I love the sunshine on my face. Just total delusion at this point. And there's no argument to be made anymore. Like that's why the pro-capitalist simps have all become like just religious losers like Jordan Peterson. Like that's why they can't actually make an argument anymore, and they have to appeal to some kind of like religious force that exists in the world. Because the moment you actually start like, what do you mean by if? What do you mean by then? Like that, they have to fall into this just absolutely childish debate style, because they know that if somebody just points at something and goes, hey, your building is on fire, then they'll have to be like, well, I guess, well, what do you mean by fire? Mucho Chili writes, in Sudamerica, China is not only helping, but built some of the most advanced harbors, but also built the road to connect those harbors. And then somebody's going to criticize them for making the best deal they could do with the best partner. Yeah. No, well, and what the Americans have done is they've tried to create a propaganda campaign pretending as though what the Chinese are doing is debt trapping people, putting nations into debt, the way the IMF does. But we have all of the evidence you could possibly want to see, literally from the IMF itself, saying that, like, yeah, no, when this debt trap situation arises between China and these African countries, China just forgives the debt. Because China doesn't worship money. China wants the harbor, right? What China wants is it wants the harbor, it wants the road, it wants the mine, and it wants the resources from the mine. That's what it wants. Ultimately, what it wants is the resources from the mine. That's what it's looking for, right? And if it has, and unlike America, when it's confronted with a choice between resources from mine or financial wealth, it goes resources from mine every single time. Whereas America goes financial wealth. No, the resources are just a secondary byproduct. Like, that's just a method by which we get wealth, right? And so if I have to choose between money for myself or resources, then I'll choose money for myself every single time. Jefferson Thompson, good to see you. The fact that money is used as a commodity in capitalism should be a red flag for people. Yeah, I think most people don't think about it. Like, they just don't think about it. And, like, it's just taken for granted. Like, the religious institutions, the banks and the hedge funds that exist in this place are constantly projecting an aura of confidence and competence, right? And there are just sacred terms. There are sacred beliefs, right? And money is God. Cash is king, as they say, is definitely one of them, right? Like, if you actually stand up and you actually say, like, hey, I don't think this money matters as much as people think it does, then you're some kind of kooky lunatic that gets pushed out to the fringes of the conversation. That if you actually say, like, couldn't we arrange our societies so that, like, a very small group of people in, like, a government ministry were the ones that were just sort of paying attention to the money, and the rest of us just, like, used the institutions that existed in our society and we didn't have to think about it? Like, I should just be able to walk into a grocery store, get food, and leave. Right? Like, that should be how everybody operates. And of course, the capitalist simps, these ridiculous sycophants, will be like, well, then people will just take all the food they want and waste it. We're already throwing away half our food. Like, we're already wasting 50% of the food. It's like between 40 to 50% of the food gets thrown into the bin. We just toss it. Right? We're already doing that. You think that by giving people more access to food, there'll be more waste? I think you're dumb. Like, it's just these absolute dim-witted sycophants are too stupid to, like, they're paid to be this stupid at this point. So, like, nothing's more embarrassing than a person coming into my chat and doing the work of these paid sycophants for free. Like, that's what's crazy to me. People coming in here and actually defending the system of capital for free. Holy cow. Like, at least Charlie Kirk gets paid for it. Like, at least Ben Shapiro's getting paid for it. Don't do this work for free. Yep. Thanks, D. Yep. There are genuine people who'll be like, but then the company and business owners won't make any money. Because that's the point. But, like, you see that seep in to how we think about, like, there's this conversation going on in the Canada Post right now, right? The Canada Post is, people are talking about, like, oh, it's not profitable, you know. Canada Post is not profitable. Yeah, it's a service. It's not supposed to be profitable. Like, people have forgotten, if they ever knew, that governments aren't businesses that need to be profitable, that governments provide services to their citizens. Profitability is not important. Like, the obsession of profit, yeah, it is an obsession of profit. It's just like, it has to make money. No, it doesn't. It literally doesn't. Like, I understand why a business person would think that way, right? You want it to be profitable, but governments aren't businesses. They're just not. They print the money. They control the money supply. Like, what are you talking about? Because at the end of the day, the capitalists want to be kings themselves. Yeah, why America is trying to privatize the post office is so insane. Yeah, well, like, I'm just going to keep saying it. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again, right? Like, America is trying to reinstitute segregation. America is trying to reinstitute slavery. America is trying to demolish any unifying project that arose within it through the New Deal period of time. Like, you will see private police forces. You will see private fire departments. You will see private post offices. Because the concept of a government providing services to its citizens has been utterly obliterated, especially in America. But there is this force within the West that believes this implicitly, that governments don't provide services. Governments must be profitable, and they don't need to be profitable. Like, the concept of the profit motive has no place in government at all. It's a stupid way of looking at things the moment you interact with government. Because the government can just go $1 billion, enter, and suddenly there's $1 billion. Right? And you can use that. If you give $1 billion to, like, 10,000 people to do a specific task in an institution that you have erected, then congratulations, you have, like, a universal healthcare system. Right? Oh, but won't that cause inflation? Yeah. You know what you do? You tax out $1 billion from the worthless parasites that are sitting in the corner being like, how do I get another $1 billion by whipping slaves harder? Like, tax them out of existence. That's how you do it. Yeah, why pay $1.20 to send mail? Let UPS charge you $75. Yeah, and like, I think that there shouldn't even be a charge associated. Like, I don't know why there's a charge associated. Like, I don't know why there is a charge associated with transit systems. I don't know why there's a charge associated with the library. I don't understand why there's a charge associated with post services. There just shouldn't. It shouldn't. There should be no charge associated. The money should be dealt with behind the scenes, right? Because the money is essentially a formality at some point. Like, that's really the truth of it, is that the money really is a formality. Once you have the institutions and the people in positions who are doing the role and doing the job, the money is a formality. And if it isn't a formality, then it's a burden, and it should be done away with. Mucho Chili, America is trying to be rich again on behalf of people of minorities working for free and no rights? Again? Yeah. It's just America doing what America's always done. It's just like really returning to its roots, you know? Eggs D writes, what I described are like labor aristocrat types. They're small business owners. Their first instinct is to put themselves in the shoes of capitalists. Yeah, like, everyone inherently wants to kind of be a king, right? Like, and so these capitalists believe that they are going to be a king. Like, they view themselves as being like the monarch of a business and of an institution, right? Like, these sort of petty tyrants that more or less have taken over the country. Mucho Chili says, do you pay in public libraries? But like late fees, although here in Toronto we've done away with them. Libraries are the ultimate proof that all of the criticisms that the capitalist simps have for public services are ridiculous. Like, people will abuse the system to a degree that the system will stop working. The library. Your argument is over. Well, if people can just like take tools or take objects from a place and are expected to return it with no financial incentive, then they'll just do damage to it or cause problems. The library. You're wrong. Like, we are getting to the point now where, like, they're just wrong. And we can literally say it in 2 words. Like, the library. You're wrong. And, like, this is what I think we should be starting to confront, like, the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiros of the world with. Is we shouldn't be trying to have, like, a big, long explanation. We literally should just be like, the library, you're wrong. Like, you're wrong. Because reality exists. And then when they put up a fuss, we just look at them and say, sorry, reality exists. Sorry. Maybe start engaging meaningfully with reality. Like, your magic books are not real. You sound like a crazy person. And, like, this is what the discourse should be. Because these people are lunatics. They have completely lost the plot. They worship money. Like, money's not real. We print it. We don't need to continue with it. Certainly not if it's going to lead to genocide, which they deny that they're doing, right? So they're not really engaging meaningfully with reality in the first place. Like, to me, that's the big question. Is like, are these people going to begin meaningfully connecting with reality? And the answer is no. They're not. They're not going to begin meaningfully connecting to reality. That we're too far gone. Like, it's all religious cults from here on out. And so protect yourself. Because the religious cults have become, like, institutionalized. They've seized power. And they're not going to relinquish that power. Yeah, this library destroys fascism. Yeah. Like, fuck these fascists completely. And, like, I one of my big regrets of my life is that we gave any of these fascists the benefit of the doubt at any point. That we should have been going hard in the paint against them from the start. I mean, it's just so embarrassing. Like, I've got all these articles about, like, here's kind of a good news story, right? From the Toronto Star. I once embraced the Zionist dream. Now I'm protesting the genocide in Gaza on the streets of Toronto. So here's somebody who had like a little come to Jesus moment. Maybe they'll explain what it took for a Zionist to actually go, oh, wait, I'm the bad guy. This is from Michelle Landsberg, a journalist and author based in Toronto. I grew up swathed in anti-Semitism in 1940s Toronto. We Jewish kids on the block knew which stores we shouldn't enter, which areas of Toronto were dangerous, the beaches, how to defend ourselves in the schoolyard around Christmas and Easter, when our ears burned at the taunt of Jews killed Jesus. We cowered as a tiny minority in our public school when the principal threatened us with the strap for not praying to Jesus, and when the music teacher told us that Jewish students were not allowed to sing in his class. We had to mouth the words. Yeah, normal society, right? Right from the bat. Like 1940s Toronto, normal, rational society. No way, anti-Semitism coming from predominantly Anglo-white people? Yeah. There's no long-standing history of bigotry amongst white people. No wonder I leaped into the embrace of Zionist youth movement when I discovered it at the age of 13. Here was everything I needed. Other teenagers who read books and argued about ideas, shared shining ideals of a state where men and women would be equal. Okay. Democratic socialism would mean justice for all, and Jews would be safe at last in our own home. Here at last was our defiance against a world that had silently witnessed and remained indifferent while we were slaughtered in the millions. I consider myself a post-Zionist now. That adolescent dream of a country committed to justice and equality has died. That Zionist identity, which gave me such a comfortable framework for my ideals, has faded away. I can no longer visualize what Israel plausibly could or should be in the future, but I know I'm no longer committed to being part of it. So here's this is as honest a story as it gets, right? Just a 13-year-old boy feeling alienated by a society designed to alienate him, goes towards an organization that is idealistic, right? But the moment he sees the reality of it, right, that it's a Nazi state, obviously, he's like, nope, gonna bounce out of that. So yeah, it's about as honest as it gets, right? No hate at all towards this person. In fact, just like straight up was like, yeah, the whites hated Jews. Here was a Jewish organization talking about a home for Jews where everybody would be happy and everything would be great. And then they turned out to be Nazis, and so I left. It's not really a come to Jesus moment, right? Like, that's just like following reality, straight up. like a come to Jesus moment would be like, yeah, I thought the Palestinians were animals and I was assassinating them. And then I had a moment where I was like, this is wrong. And so now I fight against the Zionists. That's a come to Jesus moment. Like, that straight up, like the come to Jesus, the phrase come to Jesus, like this come to Jesus moment comes from the story of Paul's conversion to Christianity. That his original name was Saul, right? And he was walking on the road to Damascus, and then Jesus showed up and struck him blind and basically said, convert to Christianity or you will remain blind. And so Saul finds his way to Damascus, converts to Christianity, regains his sight, and then changes his name to Paul. And so he has his come to Jesus moment, right? And Saul was a man who was persecuting Christians. He very famously had Stephen stoned to death, right? He was one of these people that was going around persecuting Christians. So when we say come to Jesus, we don't mean like a person who was like, oh, I kind of like Zionism originally, but then it showed its true colors, and so I kind of moved away from it, right? We're talking about people who are like, I was shooting Palestinians in the back of the head while they were tied down. I was sending death squads into Gaza. I was launching rockets into Gaza. I was teaching children that Palestinians are animals. And then I was like, whoa, this is wrong. Like, that's a come to Jesus moment. Yeah, but leftists and brown people are the real anti-Semites for sure. Mark says, I remember my come to Jesus moment. It was a hard pill to swallow, but in a sense it was a relief for sure. I'm glad I broke through my life of indoctrination and continue to do so. I'm glad too, Mark. Like, I really am. Like, I've said it again and again. Like, one of the big reasons why I don't really engage in debate on this channel, and I don't really care to engage in debate, is because I don't think that the people who are on the side of capitalism can be convinced anymore. That if you can't be convinced by just looking at capitalism at this point, then you're a Nazi, and you can't be convinced. And it's just as simple as that. And if you don't want to be called a Nazi, and if you don't want people to regard you like that, then stop believing what you believe. And it really is that simple. It is as simple as a flat earther being like, okay, the earth is round. There you go. You did it. Okay, the system of capital is not working for the benefit of its citizens. There, you did it. You congratulations. You're on the right side now. Right? But if you're genuinely going to stand in front of me and try to defend this, then you're a Nazi and I don't need to talk to you anymore. XD writes, it's even an ideology originally propped up by the saying Anglo-whites who hated Jews. Radio Halifax, good to see you, my man. Well, because from the Western perspective, it was never about creating this state where the Jews could be safe. Like, if that were the case, fucking Christopher Hitchens said this back in the 80s, right? It's sort of odd to align myself with Christopher Hitchens on this issue, but it is true. Like, if the goal was to create a place where the Jews could be completely safe and everything would be totally fine for them and they could have like a life all by themselves and everything, then Palestine is the absolute worst place to put them. You couldn't have picked a worse spot, right? If the goal was to seek out like a safe state for the Jews. Like, you could have put them basically anywhere else. You could have put them in the Midwest. You could have put them anywhere in the African continent. You could have put them in like the southern part of the Middle East. You could have put them anywhere. But you decide to put them in this absolute like geopolitical linchpin area right here, right? And they're like, but it's our ancestral home because 3,000 years ago this magic book said so. Okay. Right, I guess that makes it more convenient for you, right, to build like a little kooky religious ideology. But like, you're cutting off the Middle East from Africa, and you have to know you're doing it. Like, that's so obviously what Israel is about. And that's so obviously why this is a geopolitically important piece of land. Like, so clearly the case. And so if your interest was in the safety of the Jews, putting them here, like put them like over here, like take this little piece of South Sudan and like give them this, like go over here and like carve off like Uruguay or like carve this off, right? You're an imperial power. Just take this over, draw this line, put them here. Like, what are you talking about? You got to put them like smack dab right in the middle. Because it's obviously just a military base. That's all it's ever been. It's obviously just this military base that we're building. Yeah, Stalin wanted to establish a Jewish state in the USSR, but was deemed anti-Semitic by the West. Yeah, because Stalin's objective was to actually give the Jews what they wanted in like a safe spot. Right? The Soviet Union, that'd be a perfect place, right? Like, for goodness sakes, like, pick any of this. Like, put them anywhere. Like, any of these provinces. Literally anywhere in Russia, right? And just, like, then they're fine. And they can have their Jewish state, and everything will be fine. right? But no, we got to put them in like just the smack dab middle of like the most geopolitically tense area perhaps on Earth. Yeah, it's obviously a military base. That's obviously what it's for. Like Jefferson Thompson writes, Jesus, no, leave them out of Brazil. The few Zionists and their sycophants are already insufferable here. Look, man, I'm just spitballing. I'm just spitballing. Mark Jr. writes, non-compete as a great video on why debating is pointless, especially fascists. Having discourse with these people puts you in harm's way. Debates are done to meet in the middle. Yeah, I don't want to meet with fascists, never. No, the only reason why fascists engage in debate, that fascists engage in debate for two reasons and two reasons alone. Reason one is to terrorize. That's the point. It's to spread terror and it's to spread fear into the public, and especially amongst leftists, right? That's their purpose and their goal. Reason number two is to recruit. So anytime you platform a Nazi, like Matt Walsh gets platformed all the time on Joe Rogan's show, you're basically just giving that Nazi an opportunity to recruit. He doesn't care if you disprove his points. He doesn't care about having a reasonable, rational discussion, because his perspective is not reasonable nor rational. Like, he believes that he is that white men are the best, and everybody else should pay fealty to them. Like, you can't have a serious conversation with a person like that. And if you do try to have a serious conversation, then you give them credibility that they don't deserve. Isaac writes, Israel is a Western colonial project. Yeah. Second, these are European converts, not ethnic Jews. Palestinians share more than 75% of their DNA with Jews. Oh, yeah. No, like, Isaac, you and I know full well that, like, the whole thing is a farce. Like, the leadership in Israel are not Israeli. Like, they're not Jews. Like, some of these guys come from, like, Florida. Like, they're straight up, the whole thing is just like if you live in New York and you move to Israel, you can just take over Palestinian land. It's just a total fucking farce. Jefferson writes, just listen to Trump. Nothing he says makes sense. And in that uncertainty, he gains strength. Yeah. I talk about joining the war in 12 days. We might not. We'll see. Exactly. Right? Like, by not committing to anything, he stirs up because they worship chaos. Right? That if you actually confirm something, or you actually commit to something, or you say you're going to do something, right? Then you're weakening yourself, because you're painting yourself into a corner and you're tipping your hand. Mucho Chili says, I was educated that the only right interaction with a fascist is to place your boot in his head. Correct. Like, that's how you do it. Ugh. I'm just so, like, is the word exhausted? It's not exhausted, though. Like, if I was exhausted, I wouldn't be doing this anymore. Like, if that's the way it was, if it was just exhaustion, I would be like, but, like, is exasperated correct? I have a feeling. I have a feeling in myself, and it is this sort of this just genuine sense of disgust. Just this sense of just like I thought we were better than this, you know? I thought that we as Westerners, as Canadians, like, we're better than this. That we would actually, like, when I was growing up, there was this sort of sense, like, we had a universal healthcare system. There was sort of this sense, this idea that existed in the culture that we actually do care about one another, and we care about the success of a project called Canada. And it's just getting more and more obvious that that's false, that we don't actually care. That it really is just fuck you, I got mine. That we really are just like every man for themselves, and that there's nobody who wants, who even thinks to care about what's going on with their neighbor and or if they're okay. And like, it's just wild. Because even as I'm talking, like, that sensation is going away, because I'm having that realization, right? That, like, it was always my expectation. I had an expectation of the people in my country, and they're not meeting that expectation. And that the people in my country are actually like, we're going to watch this project fail, and no one is going to turn out to stop it. And as the project fails, more and more people are going to get hurt, and it's going to set us back. Like, we are entering now 100 years of humiliation. For sure. For sure. And the ethos of the day and the zeitgeist of the day is just get a job. Just get your own house in order. As if that's going to be a real solution to the serious problems that we're actually facing. And initially I sort of hoped, like, the Chrétien moment where he said we're not going to Iraq was a big moment, because it gave hope to the idea that Canada can resist the empire. But ultimately it won't. Ultimately it won't. Ultimately it's going to go down with the ship. And, like, what's so crazy is that in terms of the actions that need to be done, it's actually quite simple. Like, there are obviously things that we can do. Like, and the obvious solutions are very obvious. It just means that wealthy psychopaths no longer make another $1 billion. Like, and that the trade-off is so pathetic. Like, it would be one thing if we were having a discussion and it was like, oh, one thing of value, and then there's another thing of value, and we're going to have a discussion between these two things that have value. And if we were going towards a thing that had value, and I was like, I think that this has more value, though, I could still bite that bullet and be like, okay, well, but this does have value. Like, the thing that we are pursuing collectively as a people does have some merit to it and some value, and everybody seems to want to go in that direction. And so even though I think the other thing has more value, I can see why people would want to do this other thing that also has value. But what we're doing is worthless. Like, utterly, completely, totally worthless. It has enormous negative consequences for everyone, including the people who are the supposed beneficiaries of this system that we're erecting. Like, it's just failure upon failure upon failure. And people seem to want it. People seem to be, like, rah-rahing their own failure. And if you actually stand up and say, hey, maybe we should do something that has value, you get called, like, an extremist and a weirdo. Like, there's just something's gone deeply wrong with us as a people, where like, I understand that we have always had intrinsic bigotries, but like, it used to be the case that the white people even cared about themselves or their own children for that matter. That's the thing that gets me. And I've said this a lot before, but just as I get talking, I just always get struck by it. I just always get like, boom, like just like, ooh, it hits me. Where it's like, oh, right. We don't care about our own children. Like we simply don't. Like, sure, a parent probably feels responsibility to the day-to-day goings on of their children's lives. But like, once they're 18, it's like, okay, off you go into the world, right? And we don't actually give a shit about what happens to them and what life is like for them. That's what's sort of staggering to me. And there's this like hard right fascist idealism of tough it out, right? Grind set, work hard, and that'll build character. And I'm like, man, what a perfect ideology for a psychopathic billionaire. You just get everybody convinced that if I grind really hard, the boss will give me kisses, and I'll get the little crumbs. Yikes. Isaac writes, my aunt is married to a native Mexican in LA who belongs to a Christian Jew sect that have told them that they will be giving land if they move to Israel. He doesn't have a drop of Jewish blood. Yeah, it's a farce. Jeff, good to see you. The nice part about living in TCHC is that they do coffee groups and art activities, so you do have community. Oh, that sounds nice. What's Toronto City, Toronto Community Housing City? What's TCHC, Jeff? Jefferson writes, the West is in full Nazi mode, masks off. Did you see Mers talking? Israel does our dirty work. Yeah, no leftist could have said it any better. Yeah. Mers is a German chancellor. Hold on. I think I have that in the memes section. I just didn't bring it up because it got kind of buried. As you can see, this is the Discord rather. Good opportunity to say, hey, donate some money. Like, share, subscribe. Hit those bells, hit those whistles. If you like the content that I'm doing, please be sure to tell a friend. Yeah, if you donate $1 to my Patreon, you can get into the Discord. Eggs D, we love Jews as long as they're far away over there killing other races we don't like. Yeah. And what consistently floors me? What consistently floors me is like, it doesn't need to be like this at all. Like, that's the thing that consistently floors me. Like, so often, like, take this invasion of Iran, right? We could just not. Like, we could just not. There's just so many times in my life where I've looked at what the American government is up to and the American military, and I'm just like, just don't. Just don't do that. Just go do something else. In fact, just do nothing. Like, just stop projecting yourself into the world. Just stop. Like, you're not going to actually, you're not actually going to win this one, you know? Like, it's not actually going to work out. Like, I don't know why these guys, outside of just like this sense of like, I'm a big shot and I want to get things done. But like, so many times you could just like stop, just do nothing. Just take in more information. I went and watched Mickey 13 or 37. I forget what the number is, but it's the fellow that did the movie Parasite It's his newest, with Patterson is in it. And the whole plot of the film is that he's in. I'll try to do as few spoilers as possible because I think it is a good movie. But the whole thrust of the film is that they're colonizing an alien planet, and when they arrive on the alien planet, there's an indigenous species of like bug critters that are there, right? And the leadership of this ship is straight up like a Trump style figure, played by the fellow that was Mark Ruffalo. That's who he is, played by Mark Ruffalo. And it's just like so obvious. Like, what was so kind of sad about it is that like they arrive on this alien planet and there's like an indigenous alien species there, and instead of the attitude of the leadership being, okay, here is an indigenous species that we found on this planet as expected, we expect to find indigenous species on the planets that are there that can sort of support life, human life. We sort of expect that. Let's try to communicate with them, and we should create like a neutral posture with them, right? We should assume that they have the ability to communicate. We should assume that they have the ability to negotiate. We should assume these things, and we should move delicately and slowly, right? Instead of that, they're literally just like, they're bugs, exterminate them. And like their whole ethos and their whole thinking pattern is just straight up, this is our God-given land and we're here to take it, exterminate these bugs. And like, it was just done so like, what's the word I'm looking for here? But it was done with just such a like, bleh. It was just like, duh. They're bugs, get rid of them. That I was like, initially I was like, that's kind of cartoonish. But now I'm like, that is how that would go. It would just be a bunch of yahoos basically being like, they're bugs, get rid of them. And that would be it. And like, we're so beyond parody now as a people. Like, we're so beyond satire. And like, it makes it difficult for me to want to engage seriously in the society that I'm in. Because like, these people are out there. Like, they're in the society that I live in. These just like dim-witted, sycophantic capitalist simps who actually think that this is good. Like, because all they really care about is that their walk to their burger joint is clean and nice, and they don't care if we have to enslave a bunch of people to do it. Jefferson Thompson writes, it was tweeted before Merce said this, but my favorite answer to this was a tweet from the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs a few days ago. History reminder. Germany ignited 2 world wars. Iran sheltered Jews fleeing Hitler. Ask Polish and French refugees who got Iranian passports. Those perpetually on the wrong side of history. Best stay silent now. Yeah. It's like that Norm Macdonald bit. Like, one of Norm Macdonald's last shows before he died was on Letterman's last show. And he had this whole bit where he was just like, now everybody keeps complaining about Iran, right? Iraq. Well, I actually think that the place that we should be most concerned about is Germany. Now, I don't know if you guys are history buffs or not, but not that long ago, Germany, started a war. And as their target, they picked the world. You'd think that wouldn't be close, but apparently it was. And so you'd think they learned their lesson, but shortly thereafter they started another war again. And would you believe it? The target that they picked? The world. And again, They lost again. So it's just straight up like one of his last things that he did on the earth while he still could was to stand up in front of all of us and be like sure, kind of in a jokey way, but straight up just say like, hey, maybe we should pay attention to, the people who started 2 world wars twice. Maybe. Yeah, Germany does some spooky things when they experience inflation. Seeing them build up their military should be a concern as they also experience inflation. Yeah. No, no. Like, this is what I talk about when people are talking about, like, consolidation or any of this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, the Europeans do not have a long history of cooperation and collaboration. Like, and this period of time has only been possible because America has been standing over it, like looming over it, like staring at its business. Mucho Chill says, I live in Denmark and even our social services are among the strongest. The people need to hear from Trump that he wanted to invade Greenland to start to look at the USA as a threat. The line has to be pushed a lot for people to realize. That's what makes me frustrated. Yeah, what makes me kind of frustrated, Mucho Chill, is people will come in here and they'll talk about social democracies, such as Denmark, and talk about the social services they have, and they say, "Oh, that's the goal that I want. I want that, right? No, I don't want communism. I want this social democracy thing." Failing to recognize that the reason why you have a social democracy in the Scandinavian countries is because of communism. It's because you have all of these communists taking over factories, taking over places, basically saying that the old way of doing business is over. We're not going to do that. And the capitalists essentially scrambling around being like, oh, we got to give people something. We got to give people something. They're literally taking our factories over, which, by the way, we should be doing that. Like, that's what we should be doing. We should be walking into factories and we should be taking them over, and we should be running them without permission. But like, that's what was happening in Europe when Marx was writing and when the Communist Manifesto was written, and when this is a long forgotten history of communism in Europe. Like, after World War One, like World War One was such an absurd event for everybody in Europe that all institutions instantly and immediately lost all of their credibility. Not just in like the eyes of like a YouTube commenter like myself, but in the eyes of the general public. Like, imagine living in a society where everybody thought of their institutions the way I think of these institutions, but it's literally everybody. And we're talking about like the church, we're talking about the queen, the monarchs, the government, everybody. And so the solution that thousands and thousands, if not millions of people came up with was, we'll just take these factories over. And we actually have letters in Italy. We have letters where the government, like the president of these governments, are straight up saying, yeah, we can't do anything about this. We don't have the manpower to do anything about this. We can't send the army into the factories. Like, that'll we actually need the army to be doing what the army is currently doing for national security. We can't divert them to the factories to deal with this domestic trouble, right? And it isn't, and this gives rise, of course, to Mussolini, right, who gets well funded by the capitalist class so that he does take over the factories through military force, because capitalists are sycophantic fascists and psychopaths. And so but there was a period of time post World War One where communists were just going around taking shit over, right? And we should get there again. Because I don't think these capitalists are going to take anything seriously until we start taking their structures over. Like, until we start taking over Walmarts, until we start taking over Loblaws, until we start taking places over and saying, like, nope, we're running this now. Bye. Like, it's nothing's going to change. The decline of social democracy and the collapse of USSR is quite clear. Yeah, there's a direct correlation there. Yeah. No, you need some kind of weight on the other side of things, right? Like, capitalists are obviously psychopaths, and they only respond to fear. Like, they need to be terrorized into doing stuff. That's the only thing that works. Like, it is straight up like A Christmas Carol. Like, we need to send ghosts to terrorize these people existentially, because they aren't capable of basic human emotions anymore. So like, they just need to get some fear shocked into them. But we're a gulled population. We're not going to be doing that anytime soon. And I hadn't even started to touch base on, like, where it is. Yeah, here it is. So here's a website that I want everybody to know about. It's called bankingonclimatechaos.org. It's a website that's dedicated to really tracking how much money banks have made selling us all out to climate change. That the world's 65 biggest banks committed like $8 trillion over 9 years to the fossil fuel industry, driving climate chaos and deadly health impacts. Like, when they say, but the economy, this is what they're talking about. Like, here's JP Morgan Chase, $192 billion. Citigroup, $160 billion. Bank of America, $158 billion. Like, these people should go to the Hague. Right? Like, these people should be tried as criminals for what they're doing. And their and their climate change propagandists and all these people should join them. Like, anybody who stood up and was like, climate change is a Chinese hoax should go to the Hague. Like, the devastation that climate change is going to hit us with, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be absolutely insane. And guys like Jamie Dimon are basically going to, die in his gold-encrusted bed surrounded by prostitutes, essentially. And we're all just going to watch it happen. We're all just going to be like, yep, he was an American patriot. Like, it's all just so pathetic, And maybe it's because I haven't had much to eat today, and I'm just feeling a little down on energy. But just like, you would think that there would be any amount of struggle against it. You would think that there would be anyone, anywhere, at any place, at any time, being like, hey, these guys should go to jail, right? Like, these guys are obviously, like, Goebbels level Nazi war criminals, right? Like, and I've made the statement that, and I'll stand by this statement, these guys are actually worse than the Nazis, right? Even the Nazis even, at least the Nazis cared about themselves, right? At least the Nazis were standing there being like, this is for the glory of the German Empire, and we're going to do great things and make Germany great again, and our children will love us for the things that we've done. Like, at least they had a theory that actually said, this will be good for Germans. These guys are murdering their own children, and they don't give a fuck. Like, they don't care at all. No shit's given. Yeah, these people don't even care about their own families. Like, they don't care. And so these guys are worse than the Nazis. Like, these are Nazi institutions. Here's a list of Nazi institutions: JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Bank of America, Mitsubishi, UFJ Financial, Mizuho Financial, Wells Fargo, the Royal Bank of Canada, SMBC Group, Scotiabank, Barclays, Toronto Dominion Bank, Goldman Sachs. These guys are all Nazis. From the clerks that work at the front teller to the president. These people should be tried in the Hague, each and every one of them. I was just following orders, they'll say. Jefferson Thompson writes, "You are correct. The modern Nazis don't even care about themselves. They will kill us all if possible." Yeah, this is what makes this like a suicide death cult, right? Like, what we're looking at is a death cult. And it just becomes more and more obvious the more you take a look at what's going to happen with climate change. Like, the famines are going to be the thing. The famines are going to be the thing that really kicks everything off. That we live in a country full of burger eaters who are just like gluttonous, totally sycophantic, and can't really be turned away from it. And like, what are they going to do when they can't get their snackies? What are they going to do? Like, it's fine, but just like Mark jokes, watching this as I eat a burger. Like, it's all fine, but just like, we're not really connected to what we're doing anymore. Like, we're not connected to our food chain. We're not connected to any like we everything is imported to us. Like, we're not part of a system of growth anymore. We're not part of our food chain anymore. Food is delivered to us. We don't really have a part of it, right? Like we're not killing animals. We're not even seeing the animals as they have been killed. Right? We're not planting the grain. We're not watching the grain grow, and we're not harvesting the grain. We're not processing the grain. We're not part of it anymore. Right? That we're all separated from it. And so we've kind of taken it for granted. We just take it for granted that there's going to be all this food and everything's going to be great. Well, we're going to get hit with some famines. We're going to get hit with some pretty big famines because of this climate change situation. Like, and those famines are going to come in at the same time as the global finance system fails. And so we're not even going to be able to import food anymore because nobody's going to give a shit about our dollar. And like, once the famines sweep through, and like, don't tell me it won't. Like, before COVID happened, everybody was like, haha, what, a plague? What are you talking about? Haha, jokey joke. And now everybody's like, yeah, that shit's serious. That can happen. Yeah, you know what can also happen? A famine. And the reason why North America has been so famine resistant is because for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the place was controlled by people who considered themselves stewards of the land and who actually like lived in balance with the ecosystem they were in. We're harvesters, man. Like, we're just like, we're parasitic. Like, we're just draining the life force from the land. Like necromancers. We just siphon and siphon and siphon, and we don't care. And there's a turning point, and it's coming. I have a fellow by the name of Be Like G. Yeah, I can get down with that name. That's a cool name. What will happen when AI takes over millions of jobs? We will need social safety nets. Tax AI, not people. Yeah, but what's actually going to happen is that you're just going to see mass homelessness. That's what's actually going to happen. Like, the West is not a place where problems are solved anymore. Certainly not social problems. So what I expect to see with this AI situation, first of all, AI is like objectively a disaster. I do think it is being oversold because capitalists need to sell a product, and so they need to sell like a lifestyle, right? They need to sell you on the idea that AI will actually be an improvement to your life. And maybe it will be an improvement to your life. But when you're watching like this is what's odd. This is what makes the AI thing so obviously fraudulent and so obviously oversold, is that I'll be like watching a YouTube channel or like some YouTube video, and then I'll get a commercial and it'll be for like an AI product. And it's like, yeah, that's bullshit. Like, if it was such a genius thing that was so obviously the next cutting edge thing, they wouldn't need to sell you on it. You wouldn't need to be sold on it. You wouldn't need to buy a subscription or any of this shit. Like, I do think that they're overselling it. Because capitalism just needs to create new commodities and new ideas all the time in order to justify its existence, and it's no longer really able to do it. But let's say it actually delivers on its promise. Let's say it actually eliminates a whole bunch of jobs because it streamlines the process and makes things better and all that kind of stuff. Well, two things are going to happen. Thing number one, everything that AI generates is just going to be AI slop, right? It's just going to be the same garbage over and over and over again. But the second thing that's 100% going to happen is you're just going to have a huge amount of homeless people, because the capitalists don't give a fuck about you. They're not interested in you at all. That's why they're replacing you with AI, so that they can make you homeless on purpose and then go laugh about how they made you homeless. Like, it's not a secondary thing. Like, they want you to be homeless because then they can enslave you. Right? Like, believing that the same people that are erecting literal slave systems through prison systems and like temporary working programs and all this kind of stuff, the idea that those people are then going to turn around and look at the mass homelessness that they've created and say, we've got to do something about this, is charming at best. They're going to turn those people into slaves. That's what's going to happen. That is the solution of the West. The West's solution for how to confront its diminishing prestige in the world is to reclaim its own manufacturing. And the way it's going to reclaim its own manufacturing is through slavery. That's always been the capitalist solution. That's always been the way the West has operated. We are experiencing the tail end of an aberration that came after World War II. That it takes a place like America, literal nuclear bombardment and the murder of millions of its own citizens, as well as like a global conflagration, to even begin the process of considering building institutions for the benefit of anybody except these sycophantic, psychopathic wealthy. And we're at the tail end of it. It's over now. That what's going to come next is a period of like technological based feudalism, just feudalism essentially, but with iPads. And that you're going to have kings and barons and that whole structure, and like political marriages and all this. It's going to be the same as like a feudal. I think it's already there. It's just we refuse to really acknowledge it. We keep paying attention to the dead system and we don't pay attention to new systems. So we keep paying attention to Donald Trump and like the American the Congress and the Senate, as if these guys are actually making decisions, as if any of them actually matter at all in the conversation whatsoever. And instead, we should be paying more attention to like what are the conversations do you think, like what conversations do you think Mark Zuckerberg and Peter Thiel have with one another? Like what conversations do you think Bill Gates and Elon Musk actually have with one another? Like what are the conversations that these guys are all having with one another? Because that's the actual power structure, right? And it's feudal, right? These guys are feudal overlords and feudal masters. Mark Jr. with a $9.99 donation. Love you, bro. Love you too, Mark. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that, my man. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe. God bless you. Long Defiant wrote, "Want to know how bad things are? I just cleaned a $10,000 shower set. Just the shower head and valves. Immoral. Humans are totally alienated from each other. $10,000 shower set. No kidding, eh? Jeez Louise. For $10,000, it should like gargle your balls while it showers you. Jeez Louise. I can't imagine spending $10,000 on a shower set. That better be like one heck of a shower head. Oof. And in the meantime, because this comment initially came from a fellow by the name of Be Like Xi. Hold on, I'm not done. In the meantime, China is actually building its productive forces in a manner that benefits its own people. And it's actually focusing on an economy that's actually going to be good. And so you're seeing this like ascendant China coming, rising in the face of a West that is in collapse and is diminishing in its power dramatically. And the West has no idea what to do about it. Because the West has never once been confronted with a real, true civil society that also has military power. That the West has seen civil societies, but they're usually off in a corner and they're not very important geopolitically. And so they essentially ignore them. Well, now we have a civil society that's actually confronting its own issues, its own problems, while building its own productive forces in a way that is serious. And is actually building its military might and is actually able to stand up on the world stage and actually pose a serious, significant threat to American hegemony. And America doesn't know what to do about it. Because at the end of the day, America has always banked on the dollar. They've worshipped money. And China doesn't. And so you're going to see just, like, America is going to eat itself alive. Like, and it's going to get really obvious. Like, China is going to have a moon base. Like, China's going to have a base on the moon that has people on it, and they'll be researching on the moon, and then launching probes from the moon, and they'll be building infrastructure on the moon. And America is going to be like, these homeless bums just need to get better jobs. Like, that's for real what it's going to be like. It's going to be, like, completely embarrassing for anybody who is still standing around being like, America's great. It's just going to be the most embarrassing shit. Like, China is going to, like, have so much solar and thorium energy that they'll essentially be giving away power for free. And America is still going to be metering you. Like, you're going to be experiencing blackouts and brownouts, trying to keep, like, a piece of chicken cool in the middle of a fucking famine, while China is, like, straight up putting satellites into space to gather solar energy for themselves. Like, it's just going to be comically cartoon. The disparity is going to be comical. Like, it'll just be so stupid. It'll be unbelievable. You won't even be able to understand it, how it could be this way. And the amount of growth and the amount of forward momentum that China, like, the graph is exponential, and it's going to go like right now, like, let's say this is Mao takes over, right? So Mao takes over, right? And then you go through the Maoist period, you go through the wars where, like, Mao is stabilizing, and then the Dengist period starts, right? And they start setting up the path, of production forces, right? And right now, we're, like, looking here, right? We're, like, right here. Like as much as I shit talk America, like, I say we're going to get full-blown Nazism at the end of this. Like, straight up, like, military personnel with the salute, the whole thing. right? Just complete and total, like, for the party, absolutely. That's coming for sure for America. In that same vein, like, China's going to become like a spacefaring people. Like, we're gonna look at China, and they're gonna become like, they're gonna go on to a new level of human civilization that has been previously only talked about in like science fiction. China is straight up going to be able, like, once they get these thorium reactors online, once they've got their solar power grid online, which is already largely online, there's just like no reason why energy should cost money. And the National People's Congress and Xi Jinping himself, and likely his predecessor, are going to look at that situation and be like, yeah, energy should be free. Why are these capitalists gouging people and creating a false market that doesn't exist? Like, why are we gatekeeping this? Why are we pretending like this needs to be metered at all? We, the Chinese Communist Party, own this infrastructure, and we say that energy should be free for everybody. Like, can you imagine this? Can you imagine living in a country where suddenly your leadership stands up and says, energy's free now, you guys? Straight up. Energy's free now. Jefferson writes, if the West knew what to do, they would have found a way to make war with Taiwan by now, but they don't. Yeah, I think they've finally done that calculation and realized that it would be a humiliating embarrassment for them. Like, the worst outcome for America at this moment, geopolitically, is to give China an easy way to show the world their military power. That right now it's mainly speculative. People have a general sort of vibe. They have a sense that China has significant military power and significant military strength. If America decides to push the Taiwan issue, it will give China the perfect excuse to show everyone their military power and to just take the blindfold off and just absolutely be like, nope, this is what it is. And it'll be humiliating for the West because China will show the world what a proper military looks like in this age. Long Defiant writes, do you think abundance liberalism makes us more like China? Strong state power to override the unions and special interests? No. The entire purpose of capitalism is to create gatekeepers and rentiers, where none need exist. That's the entire purpose of capitalism. Find a necessity that people need, or find something that people are interested in pursuing, and put a gatekeeper in there. And so it doesn't matter if you create infinite food forever, it doesn't matter if it's locked behind a gatekeeper, right? We essentially have that here in the West. We're throwing away 40% of our food right now, right? So according to the laws of supply and demand, where we're throwing away 40% of our food, that means your food should be 40% cheaper, right? According to the laws of supply and demand, if you want to pay attention to Adam Smith or pay attention to these neoliberals and the things that they say, well, if you're wasting 40% of your produce, right, that means that you could sell 40% more. Well, that means that your prices should be 40% lower, shouldn't it? Oh, why isn't that the case? Oh, because there are worthless gatekeepers who are pointlessly in the way of providing food to the people. And that's how the system of capital works. And it doesn't matter if there's 2 billion empty units. You just put gatekeepers in the way. And you just say, nope, the price of a unit is $500 million. You can't afford that, you're homeless. Oopsie-doo. And these liberals don't give a fuck about us. They don't care. They look at Israel as a model. They look at what's going on in Gaza as a model for governance. That's what they're doing. That's what Mark Carney, that's what that's what Chrystia Freeland, that's what Justin Trudeau, that's what all these guys were doing. Moreover, that's what Stephen Harper does. That's what Pierre Poilievre does. That they look at Israel and they look at Gaza and they say, that's how we should govern. That's how you maintain control of a populace. That's the reason why they give them their unequivocal support, because they agree with it. Because that's how they see governance. And we're all just sort of dim-wittedly being like, that can't be possible. No one would be so psychopathic. Yeah. Yep. Time to catch up. What about the hostages says, I made a killing during COVID reselling hand sanitizer. Yeah, gatekeeping, right? Just like there were people who were doing like a lot of that hoarding and reselling, and they got confronted by like the FBI and things like this. And it kind of made me go like, hey, why don't you do that with the food? Why are we allowing these guys to gatekeep the food? Eggs D writes, I picture the U.S. becoming creepy, rapey, fascist ethno-states whose only way to sustain their economy is raiding the outside world, which has cut them off. Yep. That's essentially what it's going to be like. And like each state is going to be its own, like the federal government is essentially going to die off. They'll be like a collection. They'll be like the original 13 colonies will still abide by federal jurisdictions or whatever. But like California won't. Texas won't. Like the South will rise again, likely. And so you'll end up with like kind of zones, right? You'll end up with like a collection of states banding together. And there'll be like loose coalitions. But essentially each state will be its own little country. And the idea of like a federated United States of America is just not going to continue. Like it's not going to die off tomorrow, obviously, but it will die off because people are already seeing it, that it's becoming more burdensome than it's worth. Like you have ICE agents kicking in your doors, kidnapping people, putting them into slave factories. Like we should not allow ICE as an organization to have credibility. Like we should not allow any organization that says this is a suitable way to govern to maintain their credibility. We shouldn't give them money, certainly. But, and like, when resources get scarce, and for capitalists, resources are always scarce, because it doesn't matter if they have $500 billion, they could always have another billion. They begin the raiding, right? Like, America will become just like pirates and shit. Like they're just gonna become like roving bands and marauders and shit. It's gonna be ridiculous because they have no conception whatsoever of like, maybe we should come together and make a plan for the common good. Maybe that's a good idea that we should actually do. But how does that make one guy $1 billion? Just constant. How are you going to pay for that? Just this constant, like, absolute brain dead money worship bullshit. Ugh. It's sometimes tough to believe that I live in this reality. Like, I'm glad that I sit down and I do this on Thursdays. I'm glad that I take the time. I find it to be very, like, it clears my own head. I'm one of those people that if I don't actually speak about this stuff and speak my mind, then I end up kind of ranting and raving about it to, like, random people. But doing it here, even for a few hours on, like, a Thursday, really, like, alleviates that pressure valve for me. And I'm glad that you guys are all here, and I'm glad that you're listening in. Because it is functionally just me looking at the world and then being like, this is what's going on. Just calling it how I see it. And in my day-to-day life, like this last week I went on like some dates with some lovely ladies. And with various results. And that's all fine. It was just nice to go out and have dates and have people interested in even dating in the first place. It was really nice. So Oddity asks, how did you meet girls to go on dates with? So Oddity, right now I'm working in a cafe. I did apply for a course to teach English as a second language, and I got in. And so I'll be doing that over this next year, and then I'll be moving to teach English as a second language, whatever that looks like. So I'll be getting away from the cafe work. Here's how it goes. All right? This is the shtick that I've done, and this is real. I'm revealing something very personal to you guys right now, but I think it's funny, and it definitely works. So somebody comes in, and I'm working the register, and they say, hey, how you doing today? And I say, whether they're a man, a woman, a child, it doesn't matter. I say, better now that you're here. That gets a laugh, no matter what. People like it. Then we go through with the transaction, right? And then as they're paying, so it's a lovely lady, and I just say, love, I think you're so beautiful. Let's run away and get married together. What do you think? Let's go off. We could go to Peru. We could go to Cuba. We could go dancing on the moon. What do you think? Right? And they always laugh because it's so stupid. This guy can't possibly be serious. And then if they play along, which many of them do, then I say something like, well, how about we have this conversation over dinner? And like 9 times out of 10, they say either nothing or they just go, oh, ho, ho, and like leave or say no. That's true too. And then they just leave. And then I just say, okay, farewell. Bye-bye. Sometimes they say yes. And one of the things I've really learned about this is that when you approach a woman, and just by saying, hey, I think you're really beautiful. I think that we could have like a really good time together. Let me take you out. You're going to get a no like 99 times out of 100. You'll get a yes. It'll happen. And it's universally the case, though. I shouldn't say universally because people are people, but it is more likely the case that women will admire your chutzpah. That's a big takeaway that I've had since I've started doing this. Just like randomly putting myself out there. Is that women generally, because it's, first of all, A, it's flattering to them, right? B, people are sort of astonished that you're not on the apps, right? That you're not using the apps, because the apps are a disaster, and I have thoughts about the apps. But, and the big takeaway for a lot of people is just like, well, it was nice that somebody asked me. That makes me feel good about myself. And what a risk. What a thing for this fellow to have done. That really speaks to the character of that person, I feel. And so it is very rarely, because I think that's the fear. It's rarely the case that you get the like, you leave me alone, creepy, weirdo, douchebag idiot. Right? I think that you get that if you are that way. Be Like G says, thanks for your show. I'm setting reminders on my phone for Thursdays now. Hey, I appreciate that, my man. If you subscribe to my Patreon, even $1 gets you into my Discord. Like, share, subscribe, send it around, tell people I exist. Hey man, I'm here. Yeah, Thursdays. I usually start streaming at around 6 o'clock. I started streaming earlier today because I just wanted to. I'm pretty fast and loose these days. Thursdays are usually the day. Yeah. It's good for me to do this, so I do it. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Now let's keep talking about the important thing in life. How to get girls. You just got to ask. You just got to ask, and you got to do it in a way that is, like the thing that I like about my approach, this whole like, let's run away together, go get married in Peru or Maui or something like this, is that it's so dumb right off the hop. Like it's so obviously like it's way too much. Like it's so much that it's a joke and it has to be a joke. And then you can sort of pull it back to like, well, we could have dinner. Like, what are you doing? And I've done this in public with women, and I would say that I have like not universal success in regards to them saying yes, but universal acceptance that like, oh, this is a thing that's happening to me right now. He's not pressuring. I don't feel put on the spot. If they don't say yes, you just say, okay, well, I hope you have a beautiful life. And the best case scenario is if they say they have a boyfriend, because then you get to say, just bring him. Just bring him along. Just bring him along. That's great. And then they laugh, and then you're laughing, and then you say, well, you have a lovely life. And then they say, oh, well, thank you. And then they go. Right? So to me, it's about just like putting yourself out there, and then when it's not going your way, exiting graciously. And then the worst case scenario for them is that they feel flattered. They feel like, oh, that was nice. It was nice that somebody thought I was pretty and said that they wanted to date me. That's nice. But like, I don't know. It does require a certain level of, is confidence the word? You just have to accept that the answer is no. Like right from the beginning, you just have to start with, they're going to say no. Right? They are. They're going to say no. Like 99 times out of 100, they're going to say no. And they're going to say no for a various array of really good reasons. Right? And their reasons are all good. Right? I have a boyfriend or husband. I just got out of a relationship. I'm not looking. I'm not interested in dating right now. I'm gay. Right? There's all sorts of reasons, and they're all valid. And you don't like, their mental health matters more than your libido. That's a line that I came up with fairly recently, because I recently had a beautiful woman who things were going very well with, and she said she needed to step away because she wasn't ready to dive any deeper. And I was like, I couldn't articulate it at the time, but I wish I had have said to her, hey, your mental health matters more than my libido. And so, farewell. I really like her. I hope she comes back around. But that's fine. And I just think it's about like setting your expectations at 0 and doing it anyway. Like just set your expectations for 0. Try to make them laugh. Have an exit strategy. And yeah, it's a weird, like, the whole thing is weird, eh? Like, sex is the weirdest thing. Like, relationships and finding a relationship with a woman is the strangest, most unusual thing. And we do it anyway. Just like literally a dude being like, hey, hello. When I look at you, my peener does things. Would you like to have a real conversation to see if we can have peener on vajayjay action? And women being like, let me consider if I would like to move down the path towards peener and vajayjay action. Like, it's fucking weird. And we all do it, and we all want to do it, but you can't talk about it, and you can't state it so explicitly. Like, so it's got to be like, because there's all this like shame, and there's this like deep dark shame that's all attached to the whole thing. XD says, from what I observe, the guys who are consistently successful are usually the ones who can get a good laugh out of women. Yeah. Make laughter for sure. Like having a sense of humor for sure. Yeah, my expectations are zero. Haha, says Oddity. Yeah. Like, I think it's just about swinging for the fences, man. Like, you just swing, right? You miss every shot you don't take. If you don't swing at the ball, you'll never hit it. And, like, just put the shield up and just be like, okay, she's going to say no. Walk away. And, like, if she's not giving you no, then, like, pull out your phone and be like, hey, what's your number? And, like, if she won't give you the number, then say no. But if she's not saying no, move towards the yes. I can believe in you. XD's like, we destroyed knowledge and structures to deal with this. Yeah, dude. What about the hostages says, any man can be a 7 out of 10 Hassan Piker. It's totally true. No, it's totally true. Put on something that makes you smell good. Cologne, even like deodorant gets it done these days. Walk into a barber shop and tell them, make me look really good. Like I have just make me look good. Give me a cool haircut. Right? Go buy some nice clothes that fit properly. And like, do some squats. And you're basically there. What about the hostages says, will all this wisdom be useful after the revolution? Relationships between men and women are deeper than societal politics. There are certain things that are universal, that supersede, like, if we observe sexual relationships between men and women in capitalist societies, it's obvious that they are in crisis, because you can measure it based on the birth rate. Like, one of the funniest things that is happening to Western societies is that they are literally collapsing. The birth rate is collapsing. The most obvious place is South Korea. So to have a successful replacement rate, which is to say, like, if you're at 1 million people, and so if you want the next generation to also be at 1 million so that your demographics remain at 1 million over time, well, then you need a birth rate of 2. Right? It's actually like 2.3 because, you know, people die and it's how it is. But like 2, let's say. And so if you start to dip below 2, you are in a population decline. Right? Because as people die, the people coming to replace them, there's less of them. Most Western societies are below 2. South Korea is at 0.3. So that's 0.3. So instead of having 2 citizens, they've got 0.3 citizens. That's a fucking total disaster. That is a catastrophic collapse. And what's hilarious is you tune in to South Korea and you're like, you listen to the people whose job it is to sort of figure this out and try to find solutions. And it's like, we need to find a solution to so that people can have more children, but we won't give them any extra time and we won't give them any extra money. So, will this wisdom be useful after the revolution? Yes, it will. Because people will have more time and people will have more money. Therefore, people will have more sex. That's what makes this whole thing so fucking stupid. Like, we've gotten so lost in the sauce to be like, Man, life is all about money. Go get money. Worship money. Money, money. When guess what? Life's about sex. You know how I know? If people don't do it, we die. Huh? Like, for all of this individualistic talk, for all of this just like go out there and gumption and all that kind of stuff, hey, you know what everybody needs to do in order for the species to remain alive? Fuck a lot. Get pregnant and have children. Holy shit. What a crazy insight. That if you want life to continue forward, then people need to do the thing that creates life. And if you put barriers and gates in between people and their ability to do that, you kill yourself as a people. Oh, and we're too fucking stupid to solve this. Like, we're just too fucking stupid. Yeah, capitalism has no interest in improving material conditions for you to actually be able to maintain relationships. Yeah, like, they exhaust us. We're exhausted all the time. Everybody's working full-time jobs and not paying the rent. It's exhausting. Yeah, Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism by Kristen Godzi. Yep, Ken, good to see you, Ken. They are literally paying people to have children in South Korea, yeah. And they still can't get it done. Because at the end of the day, like, you can have $100 bagillion, but if you're working 16-hour days, you're not going to have sex. Like, we're so disconnected from reality and so kind of childish in our analysis of reality that we don't actually go like, hey, people should have sex, right? Like, we should be promoting that. We should allow people to meet up to have sex in order to have children for the next generation to be born. Like, we're so short-sighted and we don't care at all about our children to the degree that we're not even having them. Like, this is a collapse. This is a capitalist collapse. This is why these people come in and they're like, capitalism's the best. I'm just like, flush. You're too stupid to talk to. Like, I can understand somebody coming in and like being like, I have questions and I'm curious and I said, but for somebody to actually plant their flag on capitalism as good, by the earth is round. Mark writes, the right are turning men into unsufferable incels through the manosphere. Men that can't even look women in the eyes because they have lost themselves through the competition against other beings. Here's something a little hard, but it's true. I don't think the right are turning men into insufferable incels. They're taking advantage of young men's initial dispositions. Like, the initial disposition of most young men is sort of this insufferable incel sort of position. And that men need to kind of have it slapped into them a little bit. That like, hey, because here's the cleanest way to say it. When a man goes through puberty, like when a boy becomes a man and goes through puberty, they begin to struggle with new emotions and new hormones and new chemicals and new kind of stuff. And all of that is being projected into them and through them from their dick. And so the initial impact of puberty is that young men become dicks because it's a new energy they've never had to contend with. And so they essentially walk around swinging dick all the time and just being a dickhead, basically. Right? Like, follow the energy. Right? Imagine your dick comes online, and then all of that energy is just shooting up into your brain, and all of a sudden you're looking around and there's all these new feelings and all this new kind of stuff, and so you just act like a dickhead, and that's like how it goes, right? Like that's how it goes. But it used to be the case that everybody around these young men would be like, "Yep, here they come, bunch of dickheads. Okay, you can't be a dickhead. Like you've actually got to like take that energy and like harness it and like put it into you, and like, hey, you got to act rationally and in the world." But now you have this new slew of content creators and influencers who say you're supposed to be a dickhead. You're a dickhead, and that's the right way to be. Dickhead. And of course now we've like layered on like new language. It's all like toxic masculinity. It's like, no, they're just a dickhead. It's not toxic masculinity. It's just they're walking around as a dick. Right? And you can, right? If you don't actually look internally and look at your emotional state and try to take control of your emotional self, then your emotions are what pull you around. That if you don't grapple with your emotions grapple with you. And if you're a young man whose dick is coming online, then congratulations, you're basically just walking around as a dick. You're just a dick that happens to have eyes and a mouth that can talk. But you're just a dick being pulled around by a dick. And it's not until you go like, okay, cool, I'm not just a dick. I also have like other emotions, right? And those emotions sort of intermingle with one another to create this illusion of a human. So how do I kind of smooth this out so that my dick isn't just in charge? And it isn't very easy especially for young men, especially because it's the newness and it's the novelty and it's all that kind of stuff. And it's been made so hard now because instead of having a sea of influencers be like, hey, you're experiencing something new here. It's very aggressive. It's very intense. Here's how we sort of smooth out the transition. Instead of saying, hey, you're about to have those experiences, and here's how you can sort of begin the process. And when that new energy comes into you, here's how you sort of process this. This is what's happening to you. You know, sex ed, basic shit. So instead of having any of that, we're basically just like, boys will figure it out. Just like they've done for thousands of years when they were raping women systemically. They'll figure it out. And so now instead of like actually saying, hey, here's a support system, here's a method of thinking about new sexuality as you come into the world, right? We're basically just selling the product that says, no, it's totally fine that you're a dickhead. In fact, everyone should accept you as a dickhead. Being a dickhead is alpha male. You're a good person. By the way, buy my product. It's just more capitalist salesman bullshit. It's just more capitalist salesman bullshit, right? We confirm your bias. Buy our product. And so what do you end up with? You end up with a society loaded with these dickheads that have never grown up, that have never actually been meaningfully confronted with the idea that like, hey, maybe you should grapple with your emotions, right? Especially as they're walking around being like, I'm a logical, rational person. Facts don't care about your feelings. The people that are saying that are the most enthralled to their emotions. There is no one more enthralled to their emotions than a person saying that they're not. GPT, don't know if I've ever seen you around here. Communism is unpopular today. Yeah. I always say that in World War II, the Soviets defeated the Nazis, but fascism defeated communism. And I mean, I would argue that communism is quite popular in the places where it's allowed to operate. Right? Like, I think that people have a pretty favorable view of communism in China, for example. If you talk to like a Nazi, which that's usually who you're talking to most of the time these days, then obviously they're going to be like, yeah, communism is terrible for all of these lies and stupid reasons that are dumb. But if you want to actually talk to a communist about communism, then you can go ahead with that. Content writes, I think part of the reason the developed world is declining in population is also because people could do anything other than raise a kid and be exhausted and anxious. Um, I've talked to enough people who it's very clear that having children is like a calling. Like, I've talked to my brother is one of these people. Like, having children was not a negotiation. Like, it wasn't like a yes no question. It was, I am having children. What is the path to get children? And I've talked to lots of people who are like that. I am having children. How do I get children? Where's the path to children? Um, and when you talk to these people, like my brother, like he would have had infinite children. He would have had 1,000 children if he could, right? And he's said as much to me, and I believe him, right? And it's like, okay, well, what made it so that you only had two? It's money, just the system of capital. And so while I take your point that like people have more options in regards to what they can do, I do also think that like there are people who are here to have children. And if they were allowed to or permitted to, they would have uh, a bazillion children. GPT, I'm going to give you preference in the comments, GPT, because you're a new commenter and you're a skeptic. And also, you're being pretty polite with your comments, which I really appreciate. Sometimes people come in here with their dick out and they're like really swaggering, and I basically boot them right away. But you're being very polite and kind, so I appreciate that. GPT writes, I think everywhere, even China, it's going to become a reformed version of capitalism. That's not really the trajectory, right? I mean, there is a yes and no to that. Like, capitalism emerges from feudalism, right? And it wasn't like a switch. It wasn't like we were feudal and then we were capitalist, right? That it was like a gradual turning, right? And it was a shifting of the method, right? The same thing is going to happen between capitalism and communism. That capitalism is here and we're just going to steadily move in that direction. And there are forces within capitalism that wish to continue the regression back down towards capitalism. And there are even forces within capitalism that are regressing us back towards feudalism. Like in over the next 50 years in America, you're going to see feudal institutions reemerge. And I would argue that many of them are already here. And so in the same way that communism can regress to capitalism and capitalism can regress to feudalism, and of course, feudalism could regress easily to a slave society. So you could see these regressions happen, but it goes the other way too. And so it's not as clean as capitalism, communism. It's never been the argument. It's never been the observation. That sort of removes the actual statement of what communists actually think about how this is going to go forward from the conversation. And that the goal of communists is to facilitate the transition and to make the transition as swiftly and easily as possible. And the unfortunate truth about what's gone on in modern history is that communists have more or less been operating at the end of a barrel of a gun. That if your expectation of communism is snap your finger communism, well, that basically eliminates the United States and the capitalist empire and the threat of violence that they pose against communist projects. and that communists have had to make concessions to the system of capital for their survival. Like, when Deng Xiaoping takes power in China and begins the process of what he calls opening up, which is essentially allowing capitalist markets back into China, one of the big reasons why they do that is because they feel they need to consolidate the gains that they have made, right? Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communist Party taking over China, kicking out all of the imperialists, declaring themselves the People's Republic of China, and establishing the National People's Congress is a major, major, major win for communists and for communism across the world. It's an enormous victory. And the communists, the Deng Xiaoping communists, were concerned, and rightly concerned, that if they continued fighting a war against capitalists, right, like such as the Vietnam War, for example, or the Korean War, for example, that they would eventually lose the gains that they had made. And so they made a concession. They said, we will make peace with the capitalist world and allow capitalist enterprises into China, but we're going to do it on our terms and with our institutions. And so what you saw from the 1970s to the modern period is just this enormous period of rapid growth. And that enormous period of rapid growth happened because the Chinese Communist Party worked with American billionaires as the American billionaires basically carved out their own country and sent it over to China. That the Chinese basically made peace with the capitalists, so the capitalists would send them the means of production, and the Chinese agreed. And so now we have this ascendant China that is doing what I call pruning the garden, right? You have these, like, capitalist enterprises fail ultimately, and the Chinese communists are aware of that because they actually read and they know things. And so when a capitalist enterprise fails in China, the Chinese go one of two routes. They go, okay, it failed, bye. And it goes away because it was like, you know, making burgers or something, and who gives a fuck? It's just like, okay, you didn't work, goodbye. Or if it's considered important to the Chinese culture or the Chinese project, right? If the Chinese communists say, no, we definitely want that, then they seize it and they maintain it themselves. The clearest example that I've seen of this was in the solar panel industry. So initially, China was happy to have a free market capitalist system producing solar panels, right? Yeah, capitalists come in, they just produce as much solar panels as they can for a profit, right? And that was their motivation to do so, is to produce solar panels. The Chinese would like to have solar panels, right? So let capitalists produce the solar panels at a profit, that's fine, and the Chinese get the solar panels. But eventually, so many solar panels had been produced that the solar panels were producing so much energy that the capitalists couldn't make a profit anymore. And so they stopped producing solar panels. But the Chinese Communist Party said, we want solar panels to be produced. We don't care about the profit. We just want the solar panels, because the idea of free infinite energy sounds good for us and our people. But the capitalists said, oh, we can't make a profit doing it, so we're not going to do it. And so the Chinese Communist Party said, well, then we will. And they just seized the factory and they kept producing the solar panels. Because the big difference, the key central difference, GPT, about communists and the Chinese Communist Party and Westerners is that Westerners think that money is the goal, whereas communists don't think that. And that's the big turning point, and that's the linchpin of what's happening in the world today. And you can observe this When you read The Economist, when you read the New York Times, when you read the Global Times, when you read all of this, the biggest difference between the Chinese Communist Party, between the Chinese and the Americans, and the American capitalist empire, is that the Americans genuinely believe that money is the center, that the center of power is financialization, is banking, is money. So if you have $100 trillion, you're the most powerful person on earth. Whereas the Chinese believe that power emanates from the means of production, the ability to create things, the ability to make things and manufacture things and manifest them into the world. And the proof's kind of in the pudding. China is on the ascendancy and America's on the decline. GPT says it's not productive to see it that way. What, the way it is? Okay. We have to answer whether capitalism will allow us to meet the needs of the people. Capitalism doesn't allow us to meet the needs of the people, and it never has. Right? Because the way capitalism works is capitalism erects false scarcity and gatekeepers, specifically to act as essentially toll booths to resources that the public need. Right? That's why education isn't free in America, because it doesn't benefit rich people. That's why food and shelter are so expensive. Right? Like, that's why homelessness is on the increase. That all of the benefits that we have seen in capitalist societies has come from long struggle through labor movements, trade unionists, and communists. That those are the people who have actually sacrificed in order to see any gains that you've seen in your society. Capitalism has always fought against the progress in the society. Capitalists and capitalist institutions have always fought against. They fought against your weekend. They fought against every pay raise you've ever had. They fought against every benefit you've ever had. Anything that you benefit from and you think to yourself, this is good that I have this, capitalists fought against you having it. So I don't know where this idea comes from that says capitalism helps anybody. GPT says, would you agree that if capitalism were that horrible, we would have 80% people starving? Like, capitalists are aware that there is a thing called revolution, right? And if you want to have a revolution, what you do is you have people starve. Like, capitalists are slavers, my man. Like, I don't really get your position. Like, capitalists are slavers, that they will enslave people and then commodify those people. They're doing it right now, right in front of your face with these mass deportations. Like, I'm not really sure what your position is. Because, like, I'm watching capitalists do a genocide right now in the Middle East, right? The Palestinian genocide is a capitalist project happening by capitalists for the benefit of capitalists. I'm watching a mass deportation system and an erection of a private prison system, which is a slave system. And that's happening by capitalists in capitalist countries for the benefit of capitalists. I'm watching the constant colonization. Like, I don't know why you're trying to keep this alive. Like, that's my big challenge to you, GPT. Like, you're saying we could have a socialist mindset with capitalism. Why are you trying so hard to keep capitalism alive? Like, it genuine, from my perspective, it genuinely looks like a person looking directly at Jason Voorhees, you know, the hockey mask guy with the machete from the Friday the 13th films, literally slaughtering people in the streets and saying, how do we make it so that this guy can just keep walking around our streets, but maybe kills less people? Like, if you were talking that way about Jason Voorhees with his machete slaughtering people, getting covered in blood, I would think that you were working with Jason Voorhees, and I would consider you my enemy. That what we should be doing is saying, how do we kill that guy? How do we get that guy out of our community? If we can't kill him, because maybe he's like a supernatural creature, can we put him in a box and like throw him into a volcano or something? Can we like cage him in such a way so that he can stop slaughtering people en masse in the streets? Like why are we working so hard to accommodate capitalists or capitalism? Why are we trying to keep it around? GPT says the idea of communism doesn't work is so overwhelming that I honestly don't bother contesting otherwise. So you don't want to pay attention to reality. Because here's the hard reality, GPT, is that communism does work. It did work. It has been working. It is working. Right now, in front of your eyes, in front of your face, and you're just refusing to acknowledge it. That's all. You've just decided that it doesn't work in spite of any evidence. And so you just choose to be essentially a flat earther. That's all. You've just decided it. And you won't be convinced otherwise. Like, go off and live your life then. Jib Jabby, how you doing, my man? Jib Jabby says, can't watch live. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts again this week. You're so kind, Jib Jabby, every time. Hope the beekeeping stuff is going well. Yeah, I'm going up next week. I expanded their living space. And the only thing that's kind of a hitch is that I didn't really see a lot of really good forage for them. So I'm a little concerned that I'm going to go up there and they're going to be pretty slow. And it was pretty cold. Like this last week has been really warm, which has been nice, but like it's been pretty cold up here. So I'm a little worried that I'm going to go up there and the bees are going to be like not as far along as I'd like them to be. But just as long as they're happy, then that's fine. GPT says, if you call China communism, sure, we can have that. I mean, it's not fair to say that China is communist because we're on the road, right? Remember this? Remember how it's a journey, right? There's a trajectory. You want to see a path, right? To say that China has achieved communism would be factually incorrect. But they're on that path and they're on that road. And there's lots of evidence to show that they're on that path and they're on that road. Like, China calls itself socialist with Chinese characteristics. It holds the position that everyone is going to come to communism through their own path and through their own method. But to call China communist would misunderstand what we're talking about. Which seems to be largely like the problem that I face, is that there's this giant misunderstanding. That, again, you're expecting it to be like switch, like just a flip, and it just, nothing has ever worked that way ever in history, ever. Yeah. XD, pretty weird time to be shilling for capitalism when the Americans are facing one of the biggest capitalist crises right now. Yeah, I'm just like, it's like a guy standing around after World War One being like, boy, I sure love the Pope. Like, okay, bud, whatever you say. I just watched all my friends get like gassed to death, but the church was cheerleading it the whole time, but okay, whatever you say. GPT says they claim to achieve socialism as we imagine by 2045 alongside Vietnam, but like, okay, right? Like, they have goals, right? Like, they set out goals and they have ambitions and they're moving towards those goals. Like, unlike us, unlike capitalists who have no goals except to make profit and money, to enslave the populace and to commit genocides. Like, that's the part of this conversation that's so fucking wild to me, right? Like, you're watching the capitalist world basically collapse into Nazism right now. Like, they're literally collectively, Europe, Canada, the United States are collectively committing a genocide against a group of people, and you just seem cool with that. GPT says, but if China actually does that and it becomes better than anywhere else, it would spark socialist movements everywhere. Yeah. Correct. Right? Like you're getting into the, like, back when the People's Republic of China was created, a big reason why the Vietnam War happened and the Americans invaded Korea and invaded Vietnam, did the Indonesian genocide, right? Which seems to me like you're ignoring these things, which is odd. It's a bit strange to me that, like, you're just like, capitalists do genocide, la 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 la. That doesn't affect me at all. Which I'm going to start hitting that a little bit more. Why don't you care about that? Why doesn't that matter to you? It doesn't seem to. A big reason why the capitalists did the Vietnam War, invaded Korea, was to, quote unquote, staunch the spread of communism. Because they saw that communism was powerful. They saw that it was popular. They saw that it was effective. Like, if communism didn't work, if communism just doesn't work, then why are the Americans spending trillions of dollars to destroy countries that do it? Like, that's the big question. GPT says, I don't understand the government's resistance. Lift the Cuban embargo and let's see. You don't understand the government's resistance? Okay. So capitalist governments do not want a successful communist project to exist directly off the coast of Florida, right? And Cuba is already, as it stands, a highly successful communist project. The only reason why every single person in America doesn't see it that way is because they refuse to acknowledge the embargo, as you just have. That Cuba is being strangled. It can't get access to global markets. And so this lets dimwits say, communism doesn't work, look at Cuba, as the American empire essentially wages eternal, endless war against it. So why don't they lift the embargo? Because they don't want a highly successful, very obviously flourishing communist society off the coast of Florida, which is exactly what would happen. That's precisely what would happen. That the best thing going for Cuba right now is its induction into the BRICS organization, which gives it access to markets it's never had access to before. Now, there are big question marks happening in Cuba right now because the Fidel Castro line has been broken finally. That it used to literally be like Fidel Castro's family. But that line is broken, and so now you're starting to see, like, capitalist revisionists and reformists come in with ideas of, like, well, maybe we capitulate to this and maybe we can let the capitalists come in and do this kind of stuff. So there's looming question marks going on in Cuba right now. Yeah, NXD is hitting it here. Capitalists are ruthless murderers. Yeah, why do they need to wage so many bloody wars to stop the spread of communism if it never worked? Yeah. Mark writes, Cuba is the safest nation in the Caribbean, Latin America with crime rates lower than the U.S., higher literacy rates, and also free healthcare. Well, the stat that I like to point out when it comes to Cuba is that Cuba has more doctors than Canada does. Not per capita, period. Cuba has more doctors than Canada. Like, I don't know how you're calling this a failure. I don't know where you get off. Jefferson writes, the U.S. has manufactured military coups all over South America, still do, just to keep communism at bay. Yeah, every embargo indicates self-doubt and vulnerability from Long Defiant. Yeah. Mark writes, Cuba is probably the lowest crime rates in the Americas. Conton writes, except people are warming up to China's example. Yeah, for sure they are. Just because the West isn't doing it, a fiery pivot to socialism doesn't mean other countries don't see China and then don't want it. Yeah. No, what the big takeaway that the Americans will take from China is that we need an authoritarian leader. That's going to be their big takeaway. That the solution that the West is going to say is like, oh, Xi Jinping is obviously an authoritarian dictator, so what we need is an authoritarian dictator. Because it's just like a complete misunderstanding of how the system in China works. And Westerners are kind of universally stupid, frankly. Mark says, if you want to see what Cuba was like before the revolution, go to Puerto Rico. See the poverty there. San Juan, its capital, has a higher cost of living than New York City. Yikes. GPT says, communism working wouldn't be within the interest of America. That's true, but it's not decisive. Cuba is known for nice healthcare, safety, and education for its region. Yeah, a successful communist project. Like, just, it's so odd. Like, this conversation is so odd. I don't know. I guess I got to get used to how odd these conversations are going to be. Like, communism doesn't work, but look at Cuba where it's definitely working. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how to talk to these people. I don't know how to talk to people sometimes. I just get a little like, cool. So communism doesn't work except when it does. Got it. XD says, then the capitalists should stop inflating and overblowing our L's. People who tried to build socialist communism makes mistakes. They're still human beings. Sure. Like, what you'll find most of the time is that here's how this conversation usually goes. And I'm glad it didn't go this way, but it is usually how it goes, is somebody will put forward some capitalist propaganda about some communist project, and they'll essentially omit what the West was doing during that time. And it's especially when you start talking about the Soviet Union, Westerners essentially eliminate the Nazis. The Nazis just don't exist within the discourse, and that the Soviets were not reacting to one of the most bloodthirsty, psychopathic military threats the world has ever seen up until the modern era. There's been nothing like the Nazis. The closest thing is America. But the Nazis were like on another level. And that's what the Soviets were dealing with. But we just ignore that. Just like we ignore Jason Voorhees stabbing people in the middle of the street. Just how we ignore the genocide of the Palestinians. Just how we ignore the Indonesian genocide, the genocide of the First Nations people, the period of black slavery. Like, we just ignore all of that. We don't need to factor any of that in. None of that had anything to do with capitalism, right? That was all just natural, I suppose. Well, I think I'm going to call it right here, guys. It's a bit early, but thank you guys for being here. Really. Thank you, each and every one. I really value you guys being here. Like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to donate some money, do so. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful that anybody listens in. I know things are strange out there, and they're only going to get stranger. They're only going to get weirder. And I'm going to keep talking about them for my own sanity and hopefully yours too. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.